I guess I get to run with the agenda a little bit more. I get the Pledge of Allegiance and inspiration. So if you are able, could you please stand? And ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we're in the beginning of summer, and as I was thinking about things, I've been tracking some statistics, and over the past 111 days, we've had 96 days where, for at least part of the day, 100% of California's energy was powered by wind, water, or solar. Just think about that for a second. All of the energy we got for a portion of the day for 96 days, that's 3 seasons now that we have had 100% renewable energy. And on June 20th, the solstice, we had a record daily output of 209 gigawatt hours. Over the past year, our solar output in the state has increased 23%, which is pretty good, but our battery capacity has increased by 96%. This has led to us being able to curtail a lot of natural gas use in the evenings, kind of right about now where energy usage typically peaks. And between January and April of this year, almost 100% of all new electricity added to the grid was renewable. So in the face of climate change, which has brought incredible heat waves like we're experiencing right now, historic wildfires like the Bobcat, and the drought that we had between 2018 and 2021, it's statistics like these that give me the most hope. It's really an honor to be part of Sierra Madre, the Sierra Madre that has demonstrated its leadership through participating in organizations like the Clean Power Alliance, giving our citizens the opportunity to purchase 100% renewable energy for their homes. All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda. Before we dive into that, before I ask for a motion, I want to just ask the audience, just give me a second to get to my agenda. How many people are here to comment on the home occupations, the first reading of Ordinance 1470? Do we have people here? One. Okay, one person? All right, how many we have here for the wildlife management plan?
2.
We got 2, okay, great. Military equipment? Calling for the election? How about the parcel tax? How many people we have here for the park tax?
4.
We got 3 or 4, 5, 6. With the approval of council, I would like to see if we can't move that measure up. So I think we've got some other big things to move it up to the first action item just after the home occupancy. Yes.
If I may, I think we should probably call for an election before we hit that action item.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it should be in that order.
I think that makes sense.
So move them both up.
I would say move them both up. Yes.
Okay, and should we do it? Should we do the hearing first, or do the election and tax first?
And do the election first, right?
Okay, great. So with that, can I have
That's my opinion. I mean,
well, do we now at this point we need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so now we've got an approval of the meeting agenda. And now, City Attorney, we need a report out from closed session.
The City Council met in closed session to discuss 2 items. The first was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. The name of the case is Protect Sierra Madre versus City of Sierra Madre. No reportable action was taken. The second case was, again, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. The second case had to do with the national prescription opioid litigation. And in closed session, the city council voted unanimously to participate in the opioid settlement. That
Great.
concludes my presentation.
Thank you, City Attorney. All right, now next thing on the agenda is approval for reading of resolutions by resolutions and ordinances by title only. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval of reading resolutions and ordinances by title only.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Great. Now we've got approval of the minutes from May 28th. Madam Clerk, did you receive any changes for the May 28th meeting minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We did receive one email asking for a non-substantive change to the minutes, and those minutes have been corrected to reflect the change.
Great. Are there any other comments or edits from the council here? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for their approval.
Move to approve the edited minutes.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we move on to mayor and city council reports. Who would like to start tonight?
Mr. Mayor? Or-
No, go you.
Mine's quick. I just put a breath mint in my mouth, so I can't speak too much, so I'll try to keep it quick. On June 12th, I attended the blood drive that was hosted by the Sierra Madre Library for the benefit of Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I just want to applaud our staff. I think while I was there, I saw at least one person from almost every department at that blood drive donating blood. So kudos to the library for organizing that, and for staff and the residents for being so active within that. On June 19th, the Friends of the Library invited the council and mayor to attend their annual meeting and reorganization of their board. It was a lovely event. All 5 of us were there, so I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that. And then on June 22nd, this last Saturday, just at the very end, at the cleanup stage, I did visit the Sierra Madre Historical Society annual dinner. I think we'll hear a little bit more about that, and that concludes my report.
Excellent. All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go. So again, the library drive was amazing for Children's Hospital on 6/12, and I saw tons of staff there as well as great amount of citizens. So it was really ran really well, and then we got great snacks. Yeah.
Do it for the cookies, right?
Yes, definitely. The library town hall meeting was on 6/12 as well, and that was really interesting to get input from people on what they wanted to see inside of the library and what programming they were interested in. And then on 6/13, city manager Reynoso, city attorney Geragosian, as well as our police chief and our fire chief, we attended the Armenian National Committee of America Pasadena chapter cigar night dinner, and all the proceeds and donations went towards relief efforts for ARTSOC, which is a part of a region next to Armenia that's currently at war. And then I went to the Community Services Commission, which I'm sure will be spoken about at 6/12 with the Meadows Park, which is exciting. Friends of the Library dinner was also a great event, and I don't know if you guys know this, but the Friends of the Library are donating $165,000 to furnish the inside, which our grant does not cover the inside of the building, and the Library Foundation is looking to match that, so just be ready to really help our over 600,000. I get my numbers wrong, thank you. 600,000, thank you for that correction. So if any of you guys are not members of Friends of the Library, for just $100, you can make the partner status and come to the amazing dinner also. It's really fantastic. The chamber mixer at the Buccaneer at 6:20 was really exciting with Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst and some of our amazing businesses, and we had poppy cake sandwiches, which are great. Planning Commission on 6/20, one of the items that was most important was that Alverno Heights Academy was awarded a 2-year extension for their temporary modules that they're using. And last but not least, the Sierra Madre Historical Preservation Society dinner was fantastic. We did tours inside. Our former mayor, John Capocha, did a tour for us, and what was kind of really cool for me was inside Lizzie's Inn is a book that has the volunteer Sierra Madre Fire Department from the years up until 1986, which is right before I joined, not right before I joined, but when my father was on there. So I got to look at all the old pictures of Chief Spears and Walsworth and everybody back in the old days when they were even younger than me now. And it was really neat to see the history of our city in the Lizzie's Trail Inn as well as in the Richardson House. So that was fun.
Excellent. Councilmember Goss.
We've all been busy, it looks like. On June 15th, I attended the city's Symposium on Aging at Memorial Park with Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst. I thought it was a really good move for the city to begin this kind of activity. Happened to be at the same weekend, same day that the community yard sale was going on, so we had a lot of foot traffic going across into that symposium. So really good event. Also went to the Friends of the Library annual dinner, and I haven't been to one for a while, and I have to say it was really something. And I think it's maybe lost on a lot of the citizens of our city just how pivotal the Friends of the Library really is when it comes to the operations of our library. They fund most of the programs every year. It doesn't come out of our general fund. In addition to that, they're throwing a huge chunk of money into this new library. So really grateful for the active activity of all the people in that organization, and it was just wonderful to celebrate with them that night. On June 20th, I attended the Council of Governments meeting in Monrovia. Not a whole lot to report there. We were just talking about budgets for their organization for the coming year. I went to the Chamber Mixer as well with Mayor Pro Tem and with Councilmember Lowe at the Buccaneer, and that was a lot of fun. I've been to the last three Chamber Mixers. I think that was my favorite. Not sure why, but it was just, I guess maybe it was the atmosphere. And then yesterday, I guess, I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I was interviewed by the consultants for the fire department's master plan at the City Hall. I was happy to be able to participate in that. And then last night I attended the Library Board of Trustees meeting where it was very interesting. Our Public Works Director, Yanez, was there and gave an update on our new building. And the members of the trustees were quite interested in that, and they asked a lot of really probing questions about timelines and about some of the things going on there. And I think they all got satisfactory answers. I think he's very confident that project is moving forward, so that was really good to hear. And then also they went over their budget in detail for the coming year. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we've all been pretty busy, so I'll try to not duplicate what others have said. So June 12th, we had the Transportation Committee meeting, and we're continuing implementing our transportation plans here and discussing the communication around the return of line 268, which I've run by a couple of times during the last couple of days. It started on Saturday, so it's back up. And one of our committee members, Max Romero, did a very nice Threads reel on it, talking about the details on it, so I encourage people to take a look at that. So on June 13th, I was here. We had representatives from Assemblymember Holden's staff, and we had a conversation with her on bears and kind of the bear challenges that we've got, and trying to get some support from her. And then as soon as we left that meeting, like 20 minutes after we left that meeting, we had 5 bears up on Grandview and hitting a number of houses up there. So it kind of brought it all home to us that this is something that we need to continue to be vigilant on and work on. Then there was also on that day, June 13th, was the Library Town Hall, and I will echo what others said. You know, it was really talking about what services we want to provide to our residents, and I think it's important for people to weigh in on kind of what we want the library of the future to be. As stated, I was at the Symposium on Aging, got to give some nice opening remarks, had a great number of booths there on all kinds of different things to help us age gracefully. As well as a community yard sale. Community services meeting, June 17th. Lots of great feedback on the park right next to Bailey Canyon, the Meadows Park. Got some good feedback. It's the 3rd meeting that has had on that, and that's moving forward. On June 19th, I stopped briefly by the Natural Resources Committee, and I want to thank the mayor for being there. One of the items on the agenda was reach codes, and I'm looking forward to seeing that come before council here not too long. And then I joined my other council members at the Friends of the Library dinner, which they just do such a great service for the city. June 20th was the mixer, as Councilmember Goss said, as well as the meeting of the Historical Society, and they were planning for their the ravioli dinner. On June 21st, the Clean Power Alliance, you knew it was coming, had a retreat, and so we had a chance to kind of talk through and think through the future of the organization. Just celebrated 5 years, and looking at what the organization should focus on, how it should engage with the members, the 35 jurisdictions that are part of CPA. And then we had a second library town hall on June 22nd, and more feedback on that. So I appreciate everyone who attended that. That evening, as stated, was the Historic Preservation Society's ravioli dinner. It was delightful, tad bit warm, but everyone, it was very nice. We had good shade up there. I want to thank the city for helping out, getting all the tables, helping with some parking. It was really helpful to have them there. In particular, the police department was there to help people get cars out at the end of it. And it was just a really great event. They had some great silent auction items. I think that Councilmember Lowe walked away with at least one, and I walked away with a couple as well. And then finally, we had an open house for the fire department for their strategic plan last night. We had a really good attendance there, really good feedback. And there is a survey out on it, which should be behind me in a second. And we're encouraging our residents to go and fill out this survey. And there it is. All the latest rage with the QR codes. So we encourage people to take that survey, provide feedback on the direction of the fire department going forward. All right, so that was all of those. Now I get to have fun with the city announcements. Bear with me because it's busy. We've got a lot going on. We're just before the July 4th weekend. So we've got, on July 3rd, we've got the community picnic at Memorial Park. The morning of the 4th at 7:30 a.m., we've got the 5K family fun run, the Firecracker Fun Run, followed by the Independence Day Parade, which I think you'll see all 5 of us in, plus maybe half of this room will be in it, so that will be good. And then there will be an open house and live music at Wabash live music by the Wabash Whalers at 550 West Sierra Madre Boulevard, and free swim at the pool. And that's all from 12 to 2. Then on the 5th, we've got Barbie in the Park, 7:45 p.m. And that'll be there for folks to watch. The library has got a lot going on this summer. They've got their summer reading program, which launched June 8th, runs through July 27th. And then they also have a fun program called Operations Support Sierra Madre to have people get involved in activities within the city. So things of some of the things they're encouraging people to do are to attend a free community event, hike a trail, visit a local museum, and support local businesses. So I encourage folks to stop by the library and pick up their support Sierra Madre card. And then we've got This Is How We Roll. We have a number of those. We had one just today from 9 to 9:30 a.m. and then we have them on July 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And this is a chance to get outside, increase your step count, and talk about what you read. What are you reading? So you have that's a great opportunity, and so you join in front of the library at 9 a.m. On Tuesdays coming forward. Looking forward a little bit further, we've got the National Night Out which is August 6th. I know that's a ways out, but everybody's got travel plans coming up here in the summer. So that's an important night for us to talk about public safety, and it is run by our local police department, and it'll be from 5 to 8 p.m. It'll be in Memorial Park, bless you, and again. So I encourage people to put that on their calendar. This Saturday, June 29th, 9 to 3 p.m. at Brookside Park, down by the Rose Bowl, otherwise known as Parking Lot I, for those of you who know it. There is a Too Toxic to Trash event. That's where you can get rid of all of your old paint, your electronics, your anything that cannot go in your garbage cans. So I encourage people to take advantage of that. So old CFLs, batteries, paints, pesticides, electronics. It's really easy in and out if anyone has done it before. So I encourage you to take care of that, to do that. Also want to plug the senior lunches. So we've got our senior lunch program up and going again. I appreciate all the work of the Senior Commission in getting that going. Monday through Thursday, you can get a free hot lunch. And if you come on Thursday, you actually get 2 lunches. You get one a hot one that day and a frozen one for your day on Friday. And looking ahead a little bit further, we've got 2 things coming up in September to plug. One of them is that leaf blowers are going to be banned effective September 1st, and you can only use electric leaf blowers. And then, finally, we have the State of the City, September 12th, at the fire department. And do we have a time? I don't see a time for that one. We'll come back with a time on that one. So it's September 12th is we will have our State of the City. All right. We'll continue on.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I add to my report real quick?
Please do.
What we learned at the Friends of the Library dinner the other night was that they are bringing back the wine tasting event, which has always been popular in the city. And I just wanted to let you know it's going to be on October 5th. So keep an eye out for the advertisement for that, because I think they're only going to sell 150 tickets. So, and then they're closing it. So, and it always sells out. So just keep an eye out. October 5th, Friends of the Library wine tasting.
Thank you. All right, now we're on to the Public Participation Code of Conduct. I'm going to read this because I think it's an important part of our public discourse. So, and I'm actually going to add a little bit to it. It says your participation is welcomed, and I would say encouraged, and invited at all city council meetings. The council requests that participants refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. A person who continues to disrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting after being warned by the mayor or designee to cease the disruption may be precluded from further participation in the meeting. No signs, posters, or other large objects shall be brought into council chambers or other meeting place if doing so would disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly course of the meeting. With that, we'll move on to public comment for any item that is not on the agenda. Madam City Clerk, do we have any cards for people who would like to speak on items not on the agenda?
Yes, sir, thank you. And just for clarification, I do have a speaker card from Mr. Bob Spears, but it doesn't indicate which, if it's a non-agenda item or agenda item. Which, thank you. So this evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, our first speaker card is for Patrick Holland.
Great. Mr. Holland.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst and council members and city manager and city clerk. My name is Patrick Holland. I live at the 101 Colony Drive, and I'm also a member of the Senior Community Commission. This is my last week. So I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to spend the last 7+ years as a member of such a great commission. I believe the only current council member who was on the council at that time of my appointment was Councilmember Goss. Thank you. Since the Senior Commission was established many years ago, I feel honored and privileged to be a member of that commission. In my 7+ years, I have learned a lot about the seniors in our fine community and the many activities that are offered to them. In the past few years, we have added many new programs and expanded the programs that we currently have for our seniors, who make up almost 50% of our population. I also want to especially thank my friend and neighbor, Joanne Williams, for quote-unquote encouraging me to join the commission back in 2017. And as many of you know her, she has her own way of encouraging people. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to thank you very much. I had a great time on the commission, and hopefully we'll add 2 more very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. You're a class act. If anyone ever goes to a senior commission, he's the first person that'll meet you, and the first words he says to you are red or white. Speaking of commissions, we'll go on to those. Normally at this meeting, we would have the mayor choose people to fill the open vacancies on the commission, but we decided not to do that because it's mayor's choice, and I am not the mayor. So we wanted to give that to Mayor Krebs. So we were waiting for that until she returns at our next meeting. Next.
Yes, sir, thank you. The next speaker card is from Judy Webb Martin.
Oh, wow. Do you need help with that, Judy? Okay. Oh, the chili.
Oh, I think I know what this one's about.
Yes. Look at that.
This is the trophy for our chili cook-off, Kiwanis Chili Cook-Off. And I came to give the awards to the people who won this year again. James Carlson, and he was first place, and he was the celebrity choice. So Peter Dills is the one that picked him. James, and this is your 3rd time. So I don't know if we're going to let you in next year, or you can run the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe we'll look at that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll look at that. All right. Okay, thank you. Oh.
You should also grab the big one too.
No. Okay, and then the People's Choice was Captain Gakad and Firefighter 2 of the Sierra Madre Fire Department. So the fire department was very well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There you are.
Thank you, thank you.
Larry Chu and Gay Cat.
Oh.
All right. So it was our we did kind of a.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, it was a fun event, as it is every year. It was May 11th, so we're a little late in getting the writing on here done. And so, anyway, congratulations, guys.
Yay.
Look forward to next year. We're always the Saturday before Mother's Day, so I think it's the 10th next year. Anyway, come and join us. Kiwanis Chili Cook-Off.
Thank you, Ms.
It's
Webber.
fun. Thank you, Mayor and council people.
Very welcome. All right. Do we have any other comment cards for items that are not on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we have no additional comment cards at this time. If anyone wants to speak, this is their opportunity to come forward.
Seeing no one coming forward, we'll go on to our presentation. So our first presentation is with Sam Bernardo with the Free Animal Doctor Services. So, Mr. Bernardo.
Good evening, council members. My name is Sam Bernardo, and I'm a co-founder of Free Animal Doctor. Free Animal Doctor is a nonprofit animal welfare organization. We were born right here in Sierra Madre. Oh, I need to do this, is that right? I can yell. Anyway, we were born right here in Sierra Madre. We just just celebrated our 8th birthday. And I have some guests, illustrious guests that I'd like to introduce, if I may. Mark Williams, if he'd stand up. This is Dr. Mark Williams. He's a private practice veterinarian with 36 years experience. He's going to be giving me some information later on. Dr. Teresa Schumacher is a ER veterinarian, and she's going to be, she's got 10 years experience, and she's also going to give me some advice. And then lastly would be Dia Duvernette. Dia Duvernette, who you may know, is the president and CEO of Pasadena Humane Society. So they're going to be my speakers, or joint speakers. I want to begin by this, saying that over the past 10 years, the cost of veterinary medicine has gone up considerably, to the point where owners of pets cannot afford their pets' medical care. And this, quite frankly, is why we're in business. This is why we choose to do that, is to help these animals. Our mission is to help, if I can, sorry, I don't have my clicker. Our mission is to help sick or injured animals obtain medical care when their owners can't afford it. And that's what we do. Hold on one second. If you could go to the next slide, please. To that end, we provide two services. We do a fundraising for sick or injured animals, wherein we provide, we have a crowdfunding website, and we list the animals, veterinarian's diagnosis, treatment plan, and cost of treatment. Donors can go pick the animal they want to support. We never pay the animals directly, or never pay the animals directly. Never pay the owners directly. Pay the healthcare provider. As you can see, we've had some modest success in fundraising. We've raised over $1.8 million, paid out that same amount, and that's covered about 1,200 animals. Okay, so as I said, we have two services. One is for fundraising. The other is we have a next slide, please. We have a nonprofit veterinary clinic in Arcadia where we provide low-cost spay and neuters. Next slide. Now, the problem with fundraising is that it takes time. A pet that has an emergency which may require immediate care could be 2 or 3 hours, could be 2 or 3 days. There's just not enough time to fundraise for that animal's health care. So our solution to this problem would be if we created our own veterinary clinic. That's what we're here to talk about today. A veterinary clinic, this is what our proposed veterinary clinic, which would provide all manner of care. It would allow us to treat animals when the animals need the treatment without having to raise the money first. We would be able to we'd be able to, I'm trying to think of a better way to say this than what I've written down here, be able to provide care again when the care is needed without raising the funds. This would help animals obtain all the medical care they can get for no cost whatsoever. Next slide, please. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong slide. Keep going. Keep going. You're out of sequence. Keep going. Sorry about that. Well, that's enough of that. So this is not working nearly as well as I thought it would, but I apologize for that. Anyway, back to where we were. We believe that the cost of medical care will rise immensely in the next 5 to 6 years. Because of that, we believe more and more animals will be left unable to get the medical care they need because their owners can't afford it. You see the inverse proportion between if costs go up, medical or the ability to pay for those costs or handle those costs goes down. We say this because over the last 10 years, private investment in veterinary care has gone up. 10 years ago, private investment in veterinary care was about 8%. Today, it's about 30%. And if you're looking at private practices or unique specialty practices like orthopedic care, or if you're looking at eye care, private investors own about 75% of those veterinary clinics. The difficulty with that is that private investors are always looking for a return on their investment. There's nothing wrong with that, but when the animal's needs are at risk here, there's not much we can do about that. I'll also say this, that a couple of years ago, private investors got involved in the human healthcare business. Went out and bought a lot of hospitals, bought a lot of urgent cares, and what you see was that the quality of care went down. Research after research shows the quality of care went down and the prices went up. So again, we see that there's a great increase, will be a great increase in the cost of veterinary care because of private investors. There's also other factors that come into play. For example, there's a shortage of veterinary care or veterinarians, which would there's a cost increase for the wages to new veterinarians because there's a shortage of veterinarians. And then I think the quality of veterinary care has gone up as well. Quality of veterinary care now is almost akin to human care. So there's a bunch of factors involved with the cost of care going up. Now, I'd like to, I think at this point in time, you guys have seen what I'm trying to tell you is that as the cost of care goes up, the ability to pay for that care goes down. And a lot of people at this point in time will say, well, Sam, how many animals are you talking about? What kind of damage is this going to, how many problems are we going to have? And the answer is I don't know, because we're talking about a negative. We're talking about people who did not get a care. And that's a hard thing to know, which is why I brought these veterinarians here. I'm going to start with Teresa. Teresa is a ER clinic, and she can speak to the number of animals that show up that have emergencies and that need emergency care right away. So please.
Hello. So as Sam said, I am an emergency critical care veterinarian. I've been practicing for almost 10 years. And first of all, I'd just like to say that what Free Animal Doctors is doing is a dream come true for veterinarians like myself, who see almost every shift clients that don't have enough money and pets that don't get the care they need because there aren't enough resources available. In my career, time is of the essence always. There's usually no waiting. These pets need care immediately, and we need to make decisions with little time for room. So I'd like to just tell a story. It's a very common scenario that happens at my work, just to give you guys a better picture of what I experience and what most veterinarians experience on a daily basis. So in this case, a 3-month-old puppy jumped off the couch and suddenly couldn't use her back leg. The girl who brought her in was very young, and she told me that this was her first dog. She'd adopted this puppy from a shelter, and so far had proved to be a very good owner. The puppy was well fed, socialized, and up to date on vaccinations and all preventative care. She was doing everything right. The girl was very upset as she handed over her dog, who was shrieking in pain. She then grew even more distressed as she admitted to me that she only had $300 in her checking account, and she didn't know how she was going to pay for this visit. At this particular clinic where I was working that day, an exam with me cost $200. X-rays required to assess and describe an injury cost an additional $500. The pain medications required immediately to help this dog relieve its pain is another $100. Now we're talking $800 right off the bat, and we haven't done anything to actually fix the problem yet. In this case, the puppy broke her leg so bad that she needed immediate surgery with a surgeon, with a board-certified surgeon. The estimated cost where I work is approximately $8,000 for this procedure. This is fairly average in today's veterinary world, where we're talking about board-certified surgeons doing very complex procedures. Of course, this girl didn't have $8,000. Most Americans don't have $8,000 to pay for their broken puppy, especially in times of emergency, right? So what are my options? I can try and find this girl other resources. I can call around, ask friends, see if I can get her to a lower cost clinic, keeping in mind it's a Sunday and I'm busy and no one's open, and there just aren't any resources available anyways. I can offer a plan B, where I maybe give her some pain medications, splint the leg, send her on her way, and just hope she finds the care she needs for a lower cost. Or I can offer humane euthanasia to put this poor puppy out of her suffering. There's a term for this. It's called economic euthanasia, and it happens all the time. Now, let me be frank, I did not get into this business to be euthanizing puppies, and I never want to do this, but sometimes there's just no other option. So what did I do in this case? I did what I could. I discounted my exam. I gave her some medications. I placed a splint to help temporarily stabilize the leg and sent her on her way. In the end, I lost money on this case, but I didn't euthanize a puppy. I never saw that girl or her dog again, and I have no idea how the situation turned out. For all I know, she took the dog home and never got it the care it needs. She could have surrendered it to a local shelter, which happens all the time, because people hope that someone else will maybe take over the care. Or she may have borrowed and taken out debt and found the funds in some way. I'll never know. What I do know is this happens to me daily, and I came into this profession to help animals, and I think the world needs more people like San Bernardo and more opportunities like free animal doctors to help bridge that gap and get all these animals the care they need, because that's what really matters. Thank you.
Mark Williams, would you have a few comments, please?
Hi, I'm Mark Williams. I am a practicing veterinarian for 36 years. I am kind of the de facto medical director at Free Animal Doctor, which basically means Sam is free to call me at any hour of the day and night and say, so, what do you think about this case? What do you think can happen? What do you think what we can do? So I am glad to do that, because I am, from an 800-foot view, I look at the triangle of, on the one side, the unfortunate escalating cost of veterinary medicine between technology and corporatization and playing catch up, because veterinarians were underpaid for a long period of time. On the other side of the triangle is the average income for people that have their dispensable income as far as what they can spend on cases. I mean, as the doctor previously said, it can be very expensive. I've seen $50,000, $60,000 veterinary bills, which is going to be basically impossible for a lot of people. But it's with the technology and the knowledge of the specialists, that's often what is the case. And on the third side is the ever-present animal-human bond, which is more important than ever, given the stress of society and how we relate to people. I don't know about any people on the council, but I have a dog at home that I refer to as emotional support poodle, because he gets me through a lot of tough days, because this can be a tough job. As the doctor said, we aren't in the business to cold-heartedly put animals to sleep. And you know, an example I have of an emergency situation that fortunately is working out, but it's very difficult, was I have a client who's a decorated Marine veteran, and he found the cutest little 8-week-old kitten, who unfortunately, due to an attack with a much bigger dog, terminally damaged an eye and needed an eye enucleation. Our costs were substantial, especially for a gentleman that's living on very limited income, and try and cut things as much as we can, but it's very difficult watching him search himself as far as this cute, amazing little animal who's tough as can be, but needed a pretty significant surgery. And he was able to find out a way to do it with family members and all that, but it was definitely a stretch for him, and an uncomfortable stretch for him. And one of the options I offered him was Free Animal Doctor. And he didn't have to pursue that angle, but that was something that was very much appreciated, that was available. And part of my appreciation of the organization is Sam has amazing enthusiasm. Here's a man who was a successful attorney, and after on retirement, he has the enthusiasm and the ability and the effort to make all this happen. And it's amazing what he does, and Sarah Madre should be really proud of him. But I just want to say that, you know, the support of the council and the city as a whole would be, you know, definitely something to consider, just because it's an organization that has success, wants to have continued success, and wants to branch out to offer more services to kind of benefit that human-animal bond in the face of pretty significant economic times. Thank you.
Let me sort of reiterate something, what we're trying to do. We're a fundraising organization first and foremost. We're really good about that. Again, we paid out $1.8 million. We can be better, and how we're going to be better is if we open this clinic, we can provide care when care is needed, and that's the best thing you can do. It almost always yields the best medical results. Our veterinary clinic, I want to speak to the fact our veterinary clinic is at Santa Anita Park. The people at Santa Anita Park were very kind to allow us to park that vehicle there. It's a mobile bus. They're also kind enough to allow us to erect a 2,280 square foot building at no cost. Santa Anita has I can't say anything but perfect things about them. If it weren't for them, we couldn't do what we've done. I think that there was a slide here, but we've spayed or neutered over 3,500 animals, working 1 day a week for the past 3 years because of Santa Anita. A couple other things I want to mention is that we'll be the first, as far as I know, and Dia Duvernat can say this for better, the first organization that does both fundraising and provides veterinary care at the same time. I think that's the way things need to be because one of the things we can do, what we've learned from our spay and neuter clinic, is we can provide spay and neuter care for about 60 to 65% less than the market rate. We believe if we build this new clinic, the full service clinic, we can provide care from 25 to 50% in the market rate. So we can actually blunt the high cost of veterinary care and provide care that people can afford, our donors can afford, basically is what I'm trying to get around to. So I have a question now for Dia. Do you have any comments?
Good evening, thank you. As Sam mentioned, I'm the president and CEO of Pasadena Humane, and we provide animal control services and sheltering for the city of Sierra Madre. I'll keep my remarks brief. I just want to express our wholehearted support for Free Animal Doctor and their proposed future clinic. They currently are listed as a low-cost resource on our website, and we refer many families to them. Our goal is to try to keep pets with the families that love them rather than seeing those animals coming into the shelter because the family can't afford these emergency services. And this crisis and the cost of veterinary care is not unique to our location here in California. It's throughout the country, and it really is going to require innovative thought and resources to help solve it. So we really appreciate the work that Sam and Free Animal Doctor are doing and respect the approach they're taking to provide an alternative solution to the rising cost of veterinary care and pet ownership. Thank you.
And I'll sort of put it into it this way. Here's what I want the council to do. If you like our mission, you like what we do, it's not me, it's what we do, then maybe you can get the word out. Maybe you can tell your friends. You guys are the original social media. You know everybody in town. Tell your friends. The problem we have is we're a new organization. We don't have a lot of name recognition. And I can't help an animal if you don't know we exist. And donors can't donate if you don't know we exist. So tell your friends and family. If you know anybody that wants to put together some sort of fundraising event, that's great too. If you know anybody in social media, if you guys want to come talk to me in person, I live on Montecito Avenue, I'd be glad to talk to you. If you want to come by and see our clinics, that's great. Whatever you want to do, we'd be glad to. If you want to adopt a dog, we can help with that too. Several of them actually. So I mean, the point is, Sierra Madre has been good to us. We appreciate that, and I think we've been good to Sierra Madre. And it would be nice if we could work together and maybe get this clinic up and operational. I'll tell you, the cost of the clinic is about, well, we've got the land from Santa Anita. The cost of the clinic is going to be about $1.2 million. I think now we probably have about $120,000, not much, but we have a start. The cost of the building, which is a modular building, is about half that cost. It's a gutted, well, what it is, it's trailers, mobile homes. They're gutted and they're refurbished and they're reassembled. And there's a most inexpensive way to build a building. And then the cost of veterinary care, or veterinary equipment is pretty expensive. These guys should know. I mean, it's you know, we're going to have 2 surgical suites. So it's a lot of money, but we're making some headway. Any questions, any comments?
Can you make sure that we've got the website for it so that we can do the promotion?
Well, I had a website. Here's what you can do. If you go to freeanimaldoctor.org, or if you Google Free Animal Doctor, we're the first people to pop up. And on the first page at the top, you'll see new clinic fund. If you click on that, you can donate. There's a whole array of things that we're involved in that I've failed to mention because there's time allotment here. But yes, if you want to donate, that's fine. I mean, I'm not asking you for donations as much as I'm asking for your help in spreading the word. I mean, that's really how you can help Free Animal Doctor. Any other questions? Thank you for that.
Thank you for your presentation.
I come out unscathed. And he was lying on buying dinner, so he's really, the schmoozing he's given me is not like I call him for nothing, you know. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your services and what you're doing for our community, so thank you for coming tonight. All right, so the next item on the agenda that we have, our next presentation is from Public Works Director Arnolfo Yanez, and update on the Library Meaningful Improvement Project. Director Yanez.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, the RFQ window for the submission of contractors to submit their request for qualifications closed. I do not have the outcome just yet. I expect to have that first thing tomorrow morning. I say that because this was done digitally. A system that we're trying out with Vertex, the company that was brought on board for construction management. As of late yesterday afternoon, there was quite a deal of a good amount of applicants. So hopefully overnight I'll get that tally in, and I'll share that with our city manager tomorrow morning first thing.
And just remind us again what the RFQ was for?
The RFQ, the request for qualifications, is to pretty much kind of filter out the contractors. It is a list of questions that will determine if they're eligible. Can they do the job, yes or no? This deals with code compliance when it comes to the removal of, should there be any asbestos, any lead, any type of materials used in 1954 that the state of California requires to be handled properly with certified licensed contractors. It goes beyond your general contractor's license. It also has to deal with materials handling licensing. And I don't want surprises. Should there be that surprise of these certain materials in our walls at the library, the contractor on site will be prepared.
Great.
Demolition, internal demolition has begun. This is being done internally by our Public Works Department. This is removal of electrical items, plumbing, etc. That has begun. So if you walk into the building now, it's barely gutted out from the inside. As of right now, we have September 17th as groundbreaking ceremonies for the library. At this time, I will take any questions that the council may have.
Can you remind me when the RFP opening occurs?
That will be, today is Tuesday. That will be this coming Thursday.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great.
About 10 a.m., sir.
And are we looking for one contractor or kind of a
It'll be,
slate of contractors for different areas?
good question. It'll be a general contractor, which will then have subs, HVAC specialists, carpenters, plumbers, etc.
So within the RFQ and then eventually the RFP, if they are qualified, we're just looking at the generals, not the subs.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's where Vertex comes in.
As the project manager.
Correct.
Councilmember Garcia, if I may clarify, the request for qualifications is coming in. What we're looking for is qualified contractors that have a proven track record of accomplishing and building libraries or library renovations of this scale and magnitude. Over the next 3 weeks, Public Works staff and Vertex will be evaluating the submittals, and from those that we find that are qualified, they'll be invited to participate and receive the official RFP.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you for the update, Director Nunez. We always appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
All right. All right, moving on the agenda. Next item we have is consent items. Madam City Clerk, can you read the consent items by title only?
Yes, sir, thank you. Before the City Council this evening are 3 items for consideration. Consent item A is consideration of Resolution 24-39 approving certain demands. It is City staff's recommendation that the City Council approve this resolution. Consent item B is the fiscal year 2024-2025 blanket purchase orders for over $45,000. And it is also City staff's recommendation that the City Council approve the issuance of these blanket purchase orders. Consent item C, and lastly, consideration of approval of the First Amendment to Service Agreement with the Regents of the University of California on behalf of the UCLA Center for Pre-Hospital Care. Staff recommends that the city council approve the First Amendment to the professional service agreement not to exceed $30,000. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Madam City Clerk. All right, do we have any questions on consent item A? Consent item B? Consent item C? All right, now we'll open it up for public comment. Madam City Clerk, do you have any comment cards for the consent items?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we do not have any speaker cards, nor did the city clerk's office receive any emails on the consent calendar.
Great, thank you so much. I'll bring it back to council. Any discussion on any of the items?
Move to approve all 3 items of the consent calendar.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are on to the next item on the agenda, and as we said, we're going to now move to calling for the election. So, Madam City Clerk, we'll go to public, what is it? It's discussion item 3. So if you could go ahead and give the presentation for discussion item 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Every 2 years, the city council holds a general municipal election. The elections are held in even number years. This year, City of Sierra Madre is looking to hold a general municipal election on May 5th, 2024. It is an election for 2 seats on the city council and 1 seat for the city treasurer. City council is being asked to call and give notice of holding a general municipal election to be held on November 5th for the election of all 3 of those seats, as required by the provision of the laws of the state of California relating to general law cities, which Sierra Madre is one of. And then the second resolution for City Council's consideration is Resolution 24-42. This resolution is asking the City Council to request the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles to render specified services to the City of Sierra Madre relating to the conduct of a general municipal election to be held again on November 5th, 2024. General services would be holding voting centers, voting stations, counting the ballots, reporting the ballot information to the holders, sending out the voter guides to every voter in Sierra Madre, as well as sending out a vote by mail ballot to every single voter in Sierra Madre. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the resolutions are required in order for Sierra Madre to hold an election this year, and so staff is recommending that the City Council approve both resolutions and authorize the City Clerk's office to file all necessary election-related paperwork with the County Clerk's office.
Is that all? Is that the end of your presentation?
That is the end of my
Perfect.
presentation.
Thank you. All right, council questions. Hearing none, we'll open it up for public comment. Do we have any comment cards for whether or not we want to hold an election on November 5th?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we do not have any speaker cards on this item, and the City Clerk's office did not receive any emails.
Great. All right, thank you. We'll bring it back to the council. Any further discussion? I assume we want to have an election.
Pretty
and we
open
want
and
the
shut,
help.
isn't it?
All right, then we'll continue on. I will entertain a motion for the approval of resolutions 2440 and 2442.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're gonna have an election. All right, great. Move on to number 4 on the agenda. Madam City Clerk, you're up again.
Sir, thank you. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, the City Clerk's office received an intent to circulate a petition submitted by 2 petitioners, 2 proponents, Mr. Ted Seraph and Mr. James Walsworth. That intention to submit the petition was submitted to the City Clerk's office in March of this year. The intention was submitted to the City Attorney's office, and the City Attorney's office prepared a ballot title and summary, which was then subsequently posted in the adjudicated newspaper, Mountain Views News. Upon the circulation and the issuance of the ballot title and summary, the proponents for this initiative began collecting signatures. On May 16th of this year, the proponents submitted their list of petitions and signatures to the city clerk's office. Under prima facie examination, the city clerk's office determined that there were sufficient signatures. However, the city clerk's office submitted the signatures to the county clerk's office for a second examination and certification from the County of Los Angeles City Clerk's Office, or County Clerk's Office, excuse me. The County Clerk's Office upheld the city clerk's decision and determination that the petition was sufficient and qualified to be placed on the future ballot at an upcoming election, either through general municipal election or at a special election. And so this evening, the City Council is being asked to accept the findings from the City Clerk's Office and the County Clerk's Office that the petition is sufficient, and to discuss placing it on an upcoming election. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes my report.
Great. We'll move on to council questions. Does anybody have any questions?
How many signatures did we see coming in? Did we have validated on this petition?
Councilmember Lowe, over 1,000 signatures, to be exact, 1,117 signatures were filed and verified. Found sufficient were 950 signatures, and 167 of the signatures gathered were not found to be sufficient. The proponents required 846 signatures, so the number that was circulated and found sufficient exceeded the minimum requirement.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? All right, so now we'll open up to public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
We do, a number of them, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The first speaker is Jim Walsworth.
All right, Mr. Walsworth.
Good evening, Jim Walsworth, 280 West Laurel Avenue, Sierra Madre. Tonight I'm here to ask for your support on our public safety ballot measure. I am one of the proponents of this measure and a long-term resident of Sierra Madre. In a short amount of time, our group was successful in getting enough signatures to get this on for the November ballot. Not everyone we asked signed our petition, but many did after we explained the circumstances of the city budget and the lack of revenue to sustain our own city fire, police, and paramedic programs. We are aware that the only way that this will pass if we spend the next 4 months educating the citizens of Sierra Madre. Our group is ready to do our part of this information, to get this information out, but we also need the help of the City Council to get this out to the public. I thank you for your support and urge you to put this on the November 2024 ballot and let the citizens make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsworth. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Bob Spears is the next speaker.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, esteemed city staff, I'm Bob Spears. I live on Grandview. When we were young, our parents and guardians told us don't put off tomorrow for the things that you need to do today. The city's financial future is not clear, a little opaque, and I'm here to ask you to add clarity to the city's uncertain budget future. Please put the parcel tax on the ballot for 2024 so that the police chief and the fire chief can have some certainty about who they can hire and how long they can hire. If this passes tomorrow, it takes time to put someone in place. The money for this arrangement is for staff, not for materials. And it's always very hard to staff up. You have to pick the right people, you have to do the interview, it's a long process. And the time to do it is now, so that both chiefs can have an idea of how they can use this money from the citizens for the best possible use for our town. So please don't put it off. Please do it early. That gives you and your department chairs an idea of what their future is going to be. And it is the responsible thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, thank you. The next speaker is Kyle Bailey.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you a little about this tonight. I have a few members from our association that are also going to be commenting. What I'm going to do is maybe switch gears a little for myself. I want to speak a little personal on the matter and urge your support to get this on the November ballot. In 2018, I came over here knowing what I was getting into. I came over here for two reasons. I came over here because I knew what a unique and special community this was, and I was always just impressed by it. And I also came here because my father spent his whole career here and eventually retired, serving the police department, and retired here in 2005 as the police chief. I'm aware of the historic challenges that the city has had due to that. And when I was coming over here, I remember reflecting on things, and I remember going back to the days as a kid, walking around the police department when it was on Windsor and thinking, even as a kid, boy, what a small department this is. I could remember having one or two officers at the time that were serving the whole community. I could remember when my dad was the police chief, calling the police dispatch line, asking to be transferred to the police chief, and Chief Bailey picks up the phone working the dispatch center. We've come a long ways, and when I reflect on the things where we are today, and additional challenges, back in 2016, we had the sheriff's department that was running our police department at night. We came close to really having some significant changes to that. And coming in 2018 and seeing the progress that we've made, and especially under the leadership of Chief Barrientos, we're a very stable organization right now. We're a very healthy organization right now. We have great members that work for this police department that want to serve the community, that have it in their hearts to serve the community, and that want to be here. But as we all know, this city has challenges historically in funding its police department and fire department. We've made a pretty significant move recently with the fire department becoming a fully serviced fire department, and that adds extra strain on the budget. Our police and fire associations got directly involved with this because we care about the community, we care about the future of the organization, and we want to continue to provide the best we possibly can. And that was a big reason why we involved ourselves in this process. It takes a village in the city of Sierra Madre, as we all know, and we felt that was our role in this matter. But it's going to take a village. It's going to take help from the community. It's going to take help from the city government. It's going to take help from city management to help push this thing through. With that, I know I'm running short on time. I have a little bit more I'd like to say, but I'll keep it short. We simply just ask that you place this vote to put this on the November ballot. We've taken the steps, we've made the commitments, and we simply just ask that we allow our voters to decide how important and significant this is to them. But your departments are certainly committed to this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Madam City Clerk, who do we have next on the?
Thank you. We have Grant Cadzow.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I'm Grant Cadzow. I'm currently a sergeant with police and current vice president of our association. I've been part of this community in service for about 10 years now. I've made sacrifices, and I've seen my people I work with make sacrifices. We haven't been there for first birthdays, first steps. We've come in sick. I've even lost a tooth in one altercation. So our commitment's here. I was here in 2016 when the city looked at contracting police services and dissolving this police department. I remember working 5, 6, 7 days a week, 12 to 18 hours at a time, and I was watching good cop after good cop leave. They weren't leaving because they didn't like this department or this city. They were stressed and they were afraid that if they stayed, they soon would not be able to support their families. Unfortunately, I even considered it myself because I was a new father at the time. I didn't want to leave. I had already become part of this community. I was on a first-name basis with many residents and business owners in town. Fortunately, the people quickly saw the difference in service, and it would cost more for less down the road. I was told that this was a cycle by some of the people that I've been working with here. They've been working here for a while. Every 5 or so years, the conversation of contracting out safety services would come up. People would leave. People that stayed would work more hours, and the city would end up spending more money on overtime and training the new people that we had to fill that void. The stress and the fear that this conversation brings is costly. I've seen many good officers, dispatchers, support staff, and fire personnel come and go too soon because they want to feel stable, not because they want to leave. The police and fire associations and members of this community got together to come up with a solution to get this closer to breaking this cycle. The public safety tax is a step in the right direction, and its constituents know it. The measure is out there. We've encouraged residents to read it because we know it's reasonable and necessary. We were able to get a lot of signatures in a very short amount of time. I ask for your support tonight in helping us to complete our ambitious goal to get this on the 2024 ballot so our community can make their decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cadzo. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, thank you. I just lost my place.
No worries.
Thank you. The next speaker is Wendy Kenner.
Ms. Kenner.
Good evening, everyone. Most of you already know me. I'm Wendy Kenner. I'm the Services Division Supervisor at the Sierra Madre Police Department. But I wasn't when I first started. I was a dispatcher that came in 2016 when the department only had 5 officers, when there was only 1 dispatcher working full-time, and we were only doing day shift hours from 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. while the sheriffs took over at night. We did have officers and dispatchers work overtime at night because the sheriffs weren't fielding the business line calls. But I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to kind of go off what I wrote. So every 5 years, a topic arises, the same topic of if we're going to sustain PD or fire. And with this initiative that the men and women of the police and fire department and the citizens, Ted and Jim, have come up with, is because it was a solution that we felt that needed to be an approach to come up because the topic wasn't coming up. Nobody was thinking outside the box. I'm sorry. Nobody was thinking outside of the box to change, and as you can see in a short amount of time, we got those signatures. And the citizens believe that this should be on the ballot so they can have a voice to make the decision if they want to pay a parcel tax to keep their police and fire department. As you know, the fire department always puts on events throughout the year. Everybody shows up in support, and PD is trying to do the same thing. But how can we, when we got 4 dispatchers, 1 on a shift, 1 calls off, FMLA or IOD, you have someone working over 1,000 hours for 3 months. And I'm that person. Officer Barry's not here. He's my second. We work a lot. We don't complain. But this parcel tax will be the change for everyone, even the heads of the department, because we'll have that retention. We'll keep the people who like working here. I left in 2019 for the same reason that he talked about, sustaining my ability to have the finances that I need to take care of my mom. But when you keep saying the same thing over again and not trying to make any changes, and not trying to even let the public understand what's going on in our police department, the same things come up: equipment, training, retention. I'm not gonna go over my time, but I really do think you guys need to put this on the measure, put it on the ballot for November, let the citizens speak. If they don't want it, they don't want it, we tried. Then we come up with something else. But we can't sit up here and want to delay the efforts of the men and women who went out there every day to get those signatures on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kenner.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the next speaker is Dylan Fisher.
So let me just get my notes here. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm Dylan Fisher. I'm from the Sierra Madre Police Department. I'm an officer. I'm one of the newer members of the Sierra Madre Police Department, and I'm also the association treasurer. In my time as the association treasurer, I've seen both police and fire associations work extremely hard to get to where we are today. All the members of both unions have made huge sacrifices putting in the work to create an informed community with regard to this public safety measure. Personally, like I said, I'm a new officer here, and I love working for this community. I'm also a father supporting a young family. I'm honestly afraid that if this measure doesn't pass, not only myself, but all my fellow officers will have to leave this community that we feel so welcomed in and work in a different community that we won't be so welcomed. This measure is extremely important and beneficial for the city as a whole, and I request the council highly consider allowing the public to vote on this measure on the upcoming November ballot. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the city clerk's office did receive one email from Todd Conrad, and that email was forwarded to the city council and has been uploaded to the city's website for transparency. At this time, there are no other speaker cards received.
All right. Do we have anyone else from the public here that would like to speak on this item? All right, so I'll bring it back to council for discussion. Who would like to begin?
Guess I could start.
Great.
As Councilmember Goss recalls, back in 2015, I was on the UUT Oversight Committee, and I was the chair of a special revenue committee that was put together by that council. Coming back historically, the thought was, as the UUT was sunsetting, it was the easiest tax to pass at that time to retain services. We had a discussion about going down the path of outsourcing, at that time, police. Fire was more of a hybrid at that time. And what we did hear from the public is we want to remain autonomous. We want to be able to have a council that's elected by the city to sit here and have autonomy over the leadership of our own police department. The same thing with fire. If we outsource, we don't get that benefit. Once you lose it, you don't get it back. And our public spoke loudly in 2016 that they wanted to retain funding for all these services. We went from that time from being a hybrid fire department, where we were, budget-wise, we were looking at a $600,000 shortfall, a $1.5 million shortfall, and we brought that revenue source back up. We have seen wages increase at a higher rate than our revenues have increased across the board. I'm not just talking Sierra Madre, I'm talking across the nation, every municipality, every private organization. So what do you do? How do you sustain that? And hey, in the meantime, we went from a hybrid fire department to a full-time professional fire department. We cut the fat, right? I didn't even realize there was that much fat to cut, but for the next 9 years, the budget kept cutting while we're providing more services to our community. Well, the time has come where we're at a time where there's no more to cut. We have been fiscally responsible. I can say that confidently as I sit up here, and I know the whole council can. As I think about Ms. Kenner's comment, if I knew in 2015, I've been on the council almost 4 years now, why haven't I done anything about this and brought this to the public? Well, we've had some other big issues, and kind of, we're a small community, and compounding these different issues on top of one another can be a problem when we're looking at all these other things. We have funded and we have committed to funding our fire department and our police department. That being said, from this one of 5 council members, we do have a short window here. I'm confident it will pass, but in the event that this does not pass, this council member is still with you. I understand my purview is to keep these residents safe, my family safe, all the other residents in this city safe. And how do we do that? By having our own police and fire. As Councilmember Goss said at our last meeting, other departments will suffer. We don't want that either. So what we need to do is obviously get this on the ballot and pass it. But if it doesn't pass, know we are with you, and at the next election there will be another ballot measure. From this, I'm talking again 1 of 5. That being said, we do have a short window, and I do have a question for our city attorney. We heard about kind of the education part, and I think it was Mr. Walsworth in his public comment that brought that up. I don't think we have enough time to have an agenda item to then bring it to the council if the council wants to put this on the November ballot, to then start an education program. Can we, as part of a motion, have an education program presented if we do move to put this on the ballot? Or does that have to be in a different council meeting with a different agenda item?
Councilmember, when you say education program, you're not referring to the report, the 9212 report, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about having resources from the city, educating the public on our financial situation by maybe a few town hall meetings in the interim.
Not advocacy, but education.
Not advocacy, no, absolutely not. But education, letting our residents know what we know.
Right, yes.
And getting their feedback.
And getting feedback along the way, yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, yes, that's a possibility.
So we could do that tonight in one motion.
You can direct staff to do that, correct, in the same motion?
Okay. So, again, I'm glad we didn't go down the path, because from what I understand, contracting out to county is a lot more expensive than it was back in 2015. It's more expensive than having our own department currently. So we're not gonna even entertain that.
Over double.
Yeah, and I said that back then. They still have their own pension system, right? And what's a better tax to pay than one that directly benefits your own city, right? Stays right here. Doesn't it go abroad to different countries or help other counties or states out? It stays right here in Sierra Madre. So I'm glad there's an escalator in this. As an economist, I do have issues with escalators that are tied to CPI, because you kind of create a self-fulfilling prophecy. You look back and then you're creating inflation as you go. I prefer using forecasts, but it is what it is. We do need those elevators. I'm glad that there's an elevator in there. It's the CPIU for our MSI. CPI always lags wages. So I'm glad that there's another discussion possibly 10 years from now, because CPI are prices, wages are prices of labor. We see prices increase at this level, wages increase at this level. We know that's true because our quality of life as a nation has increased. Think about TV shows in the 50s and what we have now, right? We have a lot more stuff, right? Meaning that our households are earning more relative to the price increases. So CPI just covers prices, whereas ECI is wages. So, and a big component of this is wages. So I'm glad we're gonna have to look at this again in maybe 10 years to then maybe readjust. But the way it's written, I can support this. And like I said, I would support something in 2026 if this doesn't pass, but this is gonna pass. We're gonna I'm talking about talking 1 out of 5 here. I'm not speaking for the council. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. Who would like to go next?
Madam?
Sure. So I can speak also from a history of being in Sierra Madre since 1974. When I was born, actually, it was a full volunteer apartment. My dad rang the bell in the middle of town, which we used to use to tell you there was a fire before the normal dispatch that we have now. And then being a member until 2015 and seeing all the changes. And my dad was chief when we struggled during the initiation of the UUT. He really felt it was valuable to bring better service to our citizens. We weren't getting paramedic services, we only had EMTs. And he really spearheaded the movement towards the advancement of Sierra Madre Fire Department to paramedics to then to having paid chiefs and then moving into the more professional department. At the same time, of course, Chief Bailey was around and Kyle and I were around the stations. But with the changes of what we have in our town now, and you spoke exactly what we're seeing, the services are getting better and better and better, and as science and technology increases, we have to keep up with that and provide our citizens with the best quality service we can. And thank goodness that we're now part of automatic aid. Thank goodness that the police department is so professional. No longer are we the rollover city. We used to be the rollover city where we trained officers and firefighters so well that they were getting hired by these great cities like Beverly Hills, Huntington Beach, Arcadia, Pasadena, and we were losing them because we just couldn't afford to pay them a responsible wage for them to take care of their families. So our retention is amazing right now. I mean, we are fully staffed with the best staff I have ever seen in my history of 50 years here in Sierra Madre. We are able to recruit some of the best officers and firefighters, and you can see those new people that have come into our city, and they love it. I mean, what's not to love, of course, we all love Sierra Madre, but they've made this their home. Even when they don't live here, they treat our city like it's their own. So that retention and that ability to really bring in the best of the best is not going to be sustainable if we keep going the same path we are. We saw a deficit this year before the budget was passed. Our city, I don't know how they make those cuts. Like, I really don't, but it's going to come a time when we're not able to provide those services from other departments because the priority is public safety. You have to have someone there when you call 911, and it better be the best quality that we can afford. So I'm very much for, of course, passing this to the November 24 ballot, because I think we anticipated a deficit in 2026, and we saw one this year which we had to accommodate for. And I think we just cannot wait. I agree that we'll do something if we have to, but this is the best option. It's a fair parcel tax. I think people agree that it's fair, and I'm really motivated to keep going with our history and being able to have all of our officers and fire department and our city staff, our city manager, passing a zero balance budget every year is really difficult. We won't go into deficit. We're not going to go into debt in order to pay our salaries, which we need to do. So we're going to have to do something, and this is a great idea. So thank you. I agree.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. Councilmember Goss.
I don't know if I have a whole lot of anything original to add to what my colleagues are saying. I, full disclosure, did sign that petition. I didn't sign it because I wanted to be taxed. I signed it because I'm fully aware of the financial condition of the city, and I think our police and fire departments are among the best of LA County, and I don't want to lose that. I value that, as does everyone else I know who lives in this city. This is very important to me. It's very important to everybody I know. It's a new tax, and it's a tough year financially. I think that it's the very least we can do is get it in front of the voters. So I support that in November. I think that's the very least we can do. And I just want to encourage anybody who's watching, if you have any questions about the financial condition of this city, call me directly, call the city manager, call our finance director, call any one of my colleagues up here, and we will give you everything that we've gone over the last few meetings if you happen to miss those meetings, because we are projecting a deficit next year and a bigger deficit, over $1 million the year after that, and that's going to cut into our programs. So we're going to need revenue, and there's just no two ways about it. I'm a pretty fiscally conservative guy. I do not believe there's an ounce of fat in our budget. Our city manager, and our city directors, department heads have done a fantastic job of implementing zero-based budgeting and squeezing out every dollar of value from our tax dollars. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I've sat here for 10 years, and in the last 5 years, we've seen that implemented. It's been really illuminating. So I really don't think if any citizen is watching, if you really dig down deep and take a look at our finances, take a look at our budget, and take a look at the activities of our staff, I think you'll find that this we have a need for this revenue. And I do think that what former mayor and council member Garcia said is that if this shouldn't pass, I anticipate that the city council will be right back the next following year pushing a ballot initiative ourselves, because there's no blood left in the turnip. My mom used to say there's only so much blood in a turnip, Gene. And I didn't realize at the time when I was a kid that there's actually no blood in a turnip. And there's not going to be enough blood in the turnip. So I support putting this on the ballot. I think the idea of educating our public, I think we did that for the UUT. I think we had several, I forgot what we called them. We did one in the fire hall where we had the public in. It was very well attended. And we had people out with just going over figures so people could just take a look at where the money's being spent and what the tax would do and how it would be managed, and some of the mechanics of the whole thing, I think would make people, anytime you're talking about any new tax, I think you need to do that. So I support that as well. I'm looking at our various alternatives here, so I support alternative 1. I didn't hear anyone else mention the impartial analysis, but we do that for everybody, right? And we do the 9212 for everyone too, right?
No.
We don't?
The city council has to choose to do the 9212. It's
Okay.
not
I think it's an
mandatory.
important discussion item, Councilmember Goss. And for me, if you recall, the last 9212 that we did was, I think for Measure M.
Yeah.
From what I see 9212s, they're kind of like, and there's I think 8 items that we look at.
Right.
It looks at what the negative of a measure would do, not the positive. And it feels like a lot of these things would be positively impacted rather than negatively impacted. And I'm not trying to take work away from our city attorney, but I don't know that we need a 9212 on this one.
Okay.
But it could. That's my opinion.
I'm just throwing it out there. I agree with you. I don't see the need either.
Obviously, we need the impartial analysis.
Yep, for sure. So I support alternative 1 and alternative 3, which I think gets us on the road.
Thank you, Councilmember Goss. So as stated by others tonight, in the 25-26 fiscal year, this was back a couple months ago, we had a 5-year projection. I want to thank the finance staff for putting it together because it was really illuminating for me. In 25-26, we're looking at a budget deficit of $406,000. 26-27, it's just over $1 million. 27-28, it's 1.4 million. And 28-29 is 2.2 million. Revenues are growing at 3%, where our expenses are growing at 5%. The problem is here now, and we need to solve it today. Some people have talked about the UUT, and they said, well, we raised money for the fire department back in, I think it's 2008, was it? 2000?
We've had a UUT before that, but we reevaluated it in 2008.
Yes, thank you. Reevaluated it in 2008, which, I hate to say that was a lot longer ago than I tend to think it was. So we're talking, it's 10, 12, so 14 years ago. That UUT was just to take our fire department from EMT basic to paramedic. That's the sole focus of what it was. It wasn't to make it a full-time professional service. It wasn't to make it fully staffed. It wasn't to really help the police department. And I have to apologize for a second here, guys, because so I'm the tree hugger here on the council, right? Everybody knows that. But when I go and I look at my priorities, number 1 priority is public safety. Number 2 is infrastructure. After that is community. And then we start talking budget. And then at number 5, that's when I start thinking about the environment. Public safety is number 1. And The police and fire department have been there for my family in times of need. They've been there, both the police and fire have helped my family out in difficult situations. On the Halloween of 2022, you guys saw it in the paper, my father broke his hip. And if it wasn't for the quick response of our fire department, it would have been a lot worse. He's up and walking around today because of what they've done. And I've had multiple other interactions with the police department, and all of them have been positive. You guys have taken care of our family, and I want to take care of yours. And that's why I'm fully in support of this. I want to say when this started coming forward, and I saw that the union got behind it, and they were really engaged in it, I threw in my time to help out with it. I did whatever I could. I went out and knocked on doors. I went and got as many signatures as I could. But this team here, the people sitting in this room, the people that are on shift right now, the people that are at homes with their families, they dedicated their time and they blew me away. They came in with energy, they came in with dedication, and they went out and helped us with that message that we need to have this, and we need to have this now. So I fully support this measure, fully support putting it on the ballot, and I agree with other council members. And Councilmember Garcia, you did an eloquent job of describing everything in it, and thank you for that. You teed us off incredibly well. I am very optimistic that this will pass this year, but if it isn't, we are behind you 100%. We're going to make it happen. So thank you very much. So with that, do we have more discussion on that? I think we had some items. Thank you, Councilmember Goss, of outlining item 1 and 3. Are there any other discussions on this item? Do we need to dive into any detail? I think we've heard discussion about 9212. What else is on everyone's mind?
I think it's worthy to have our city attorney explain the 9212 once again for the public and for the council, if he's so inclined.
Certainly, Councilmember. So there are 3 elements to this that the city attorney gets involved in. The first is the 9212 report. The 9212 report is intended to be an informational document to provide the fiscal impacts generally of an initiative petition. So the 9212 report would state things like how much potential revenue this would generate for the city in any given year. But as you stated, there are, per the statute, there are 8 different categories that need to be covered, but it's not limited to those 8. It could be other things that the city council directs the city staff to also consider. If you'd like, I could read those out, but they're in the staff report. That's the first part that the city attorney gets involved in. The second part that the city attorney gets involved in is drafting the impartial analysis. And the impartial analysis will be in the actual ballot. It's just a short couple of paragraphs. I'm limited to 500 words to describe what the initiative does. The third aspect to this, which didn't get completed in time to make it into the staff report, which I request you include in your motion if you're going to make a motion, is to draft the ballot question. And the ballot question is the last component that the city attorney has to draft. That's going to be included in the ballot. And there are strict legal requirements as to how it must be drafted when it comes to a tax.
You know, I think for the benefit of the public that don't have a staff report in front of, I'm not trying to make this meeting longer, but I would think to kind of paraphrase those 8 items, not read all of them, but paraphrase the 8 items, because we know that this ballot measure is for personnel costs specifically. Given that, I think when you go through that, and if everyone keeps that in their mind, we'll see if maybe as a council we want a 9212. I don't know, but I think that's for the benefit of the public. I think it's helpful.
Okay, so those 8 non-exclusive statutory elements for 9212 are the fiscal impact analysis, whether the initiative is consistent with the city's general plan and specific plan, any impacts on land use and housing, impacts on infrastructure, impacts on the community's ability to attract and retain businesses and employment, impacts on the uses of vacant parcels of land, impacts on agricultural lands, open space, traffic, business districts, etc., and any other matters the legislative body requests to be in the report. That's that non-exclusive element.
I mean, the only thing I'd wanna hear would be, another budgetary explanation, but I don't think that comes from our city attorney. I think that comes from our finance director.
I will add, it didn't make it into the, obviously it's not in the language of the ordinance and it's not in the staff report, but as part of the impartial analysis and ballot question, the city is statutorily required to note what the rate is, which that is in the ordinance, but also what the estimated annual revenue will be. So that number is going to be in both the impartial analysis and ballot question.
So when you say annual estimate, are we talking all 10 years, or are we saying in that first year?
We're going to provide an estimate for the first year, and the city's finance department is going to provide that estimate.
Just for the first year?
Just for the first
Okay.
year.
Thank you.
So I want to be clear on two things. One, you said a couple times 10 years, but I believe it's 7 that's in the initiative.
I misspoke.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure we're.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, I think it's just clear, and I think the other thing, just to make sure everybody's very aware of, is this money is a separate fund. It goes for personnel, and that's what it solely goes for. It will be another one of those places that it doesn't go in the general fund, it can't go in anything else. It is going straight to the men and women that support us on a day-to-day basis. So I think those are important things to consider as a part of this. So we've got, I hear a request for 3 things. A motion to put it on the ballot, to direct the city attorney to draft the ballot question, and for staff, because I think it's broader than just the city attorney, to do an impartial analysis that includes the rate and the estimated revenue.
To be clear, Mayor Pro Tem, it is the city attorney's responsibility statutorily to draft the impartial analysis, so it's something that only I can do.
Okay.
In my role.
But you had mentioned just a minute ago that the estimated revenue is part of that, and I imagine you're going to need to have staff to help you with that.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Do we need to also add then to this motion, or is it a separate action item at the end for the request for education?
For an education, maybe a couple, I don't know if we call them town halls or just open meetings regarding our budget.
So we've got 4 items then that we're putting together, and correct me if I'm wrong, we can put them all in one motion, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you, City Attorney. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we, let me go back to the top, that we, 1, submit the initiative without alterations at the November 5th, 2025 general municipal election. 24, sorry, I was reading something else. Sorry.
The motion is 2024, correct?
24,
Okay.
correct. Direct the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis, and also to prepare the question. And then 4th, for the city staff to schedule hopefully 2 educational sessions, town hall meetings, within the future before the election, before the
ballots reach home, yeah.
Great, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just to clarify, the motion was for submitting the initiative to the voters at the November 2024 ballot, directing the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis and question, including the financial figures, and working with city staff to do that. And then the third is the public information meetings and at least minimum 2 town hall meetings. Is that?
They're one and the same.
Yes.
So the education sessions with feedback would be the town hall meetings.
All right, thank you.
And
did we have the ballot you have the ballot question, impartial analysis? So
Yeah, she did.
Okay, great. All right.
Can I ask a question to clarify after this then? Is there a way for us to, is it legal or is it valid for council to ever vote to support?
Yes, the
As a whole?
the body as a whole can vote to support or not support an initiative.
Okay.
Great.
Would that be a agenda item for future business, or could that kind
I
of be
would-
tagged on to this?
I would prefer that because Kelly's not here.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Councilmember Garcia, staff, the city clerk's office intends to bring back a report that includes the ordinance for the city council's review and also resolutions that outline who may, on the city council or another designated person, make the arguments or rebuttals if necessary.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
All right. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to supporting this and for giving their feedback. We'll move on to the next item. So we'll go back up to the top of the printed agenda to the public hearing for ordinance 1470. And this is the first reading of ordinance 1470, amending chapter 1708, 1782, 1785, 1788, and I think that's probably it. So, Senior Planner Wolf.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Parkhurst and members of the City Council. Tonight, the Council will be reviewing the reintroduction of the first reading of Ordinance 1470 that amends the zoning code regulations for temporary use permits, home occupations, and historic preservation. Members of the public can follow along by scanning the QR code on the right. This is tonight's presentation, and they may also gain access to the agenda report by scanning the QR code on the left. So for a little background, this isn't the beginning of this history, but on March 21st, the Planning Commission held their discussion regarding the temporary use permits ordinance from the temporary, and they formed the temporary use permit subcommittee to draft amendments per direction of the City Council that was given prior to that. Then on April 18th, the Planning Commission held its hearing. The draft amendments from the temporary use permit subcommittee were recommended for City Council's adoption. Then on May 28th, the City Council held its first reading of the ordinance and approved it with some modifications. And then just a few weeks ago, on June 11th, City staff recommended Ordinance 1470 be reintroduced to consider other additional TUP findings. So going back to May 28th, the modifications from City Council included the restructuring of the definition of commercial use, a revision to the terminology in the home occupation code to be consistent with other language, and to increase the frequency of temporary use permits allowed in non-commercial areas from once per year to twice per year. So these are the these are the findings that are currently quasi-adopted by the City Council at the May 28th hearing. So these are all for non-commercial type temporary uses, and these are for standard applications. Now on screen are the temporary use permit subcommittee drafted findings. And I'll break each of these down one by one as we had attempted to make some refinements to these. And again, these are findings that were drafted by the temporary use permit subcommittee for non-commercial areas, and that temporary use permits might be at 4 per year rather than 1 per year. So for the first of those findings, it was drafted to read that the applicant has not exceeded the allowable use permits in the preceding 12-month period. So I'm going to go through this one at a time. For applicant here, the language, staff reviewed this and we thought that there is no established restriction on the number of temporary use permits per applicant. So perhaps this meant to read or as properties or apply to properties. The next was the language that reads exceed allowable use permits. So we're not sure what constitutes an excess of allowable permits. We assume the term use permits was intended to mean temporary use permits. With that assumption, already established findings for compatibility with applicable provisions of the code already cover that. If we assume that the term use permits was intended to refer to a broad spectrum, such as home occupations or conditional use permits, then staff is unsure how to determine an excess since there's no established standard or policy on a broader basis for that. And then the next was 12-month period. This was just highlighted and flagged as a language consistency issue, where other parts of the code of temporary use permits had updated that language from 12-month period to calendar year. So, as I briefly stated before, there's other findings that can cover this if we had revised it. The findings that do cover that in kind of a more refined, objective way are already established as finding 1A and finding 1E. So for this finding, upon staff's review, it was determined that this would be a redundant finding to include. The next finding, again for non-commercial temporary use permits, this was the other finding drafted by the temporary use permit subcommittee, and the first point we wanted to address was the language here that read undue intensity. This is simply too subjective, and it's undefined, and it's too open to interpretation, essentially. Next, I think I have that out of order. 12-month period, again, is the same issue as last time. The word should here is not enforceable. Of course, it can easily be changed to shall. But then there is other parts, the higher hurdle and the increase in intensity, again, are too subjective and undefined. So the language here can be refined for more objectivity, but it attempts to cover a lot. If this is important, it would be better to incorporate as standards and allow finding 1A to support the decision. Moving on to temporary use permits for commercial type uses. These are already established right now. The ones on screen you see are already established under the first reading from May 28th. The temporary use permit subcommittee drafted 3 additional findings for those temporary use permits in non-commercial areas that would be for commercial use. The first of those findings reads that the use is not occurring within a zone which has a primary designation of residential unless such use is very low impact or very low increase in intensity. So the first point we want to make to this is that very low impact or very low increase in intensity is language that is just too subjective and undefined. Again, it's too open to interpretation. And in attempts to further refine the finding, we found it wasn't much different from findings 2B, or just the one finding 2B, and then finding 2A is an example of an finding 2A is already established as under May 20th ordinance reading, and it is an example of an objective finding, which is this one that was drafted attempts to do. The next finding that was drafted reads that the applicant has not exceeded the allowable use permits in the 12-month period. This is the same exact one that was drafted for non-commercial. It was just already repeated in this one to mean the same thing. So the comments are essentially the same, and refinement was already covered under findings 2B and 2F. So again, this one would be redundant if refined. The last finding that was drafted additionally by the temporary use permit subcommittee for those commercial type temporary use permits read that in the event complaints were received regarding previous uses, this should limit, discourage, or prevent approval of all subsequent permits. So the key word here is complaints, and the staff felt that complaints alone are not reliable. Therefore, it would be inappropriate to render adverse actions on complaints alone. So attempts to refine this language to something more akin to like a police report. We determined that a police report would be a sufficient enough evidence to determine whether or not a violation occurred. And violations are already covered under finding 2F. So this would again be redundant. The next part is an additional kind of a cleanup item that staff found would be helpful for applicants. It would essentially just restructure this language that is defining the criteria for temporary, defining what duration is and what frequency is, and instead restructures it into what those are defined as in the non-commercial areas versus the commercial areas. The other thing that was done here was to change the language that read Measure V area boundary, which was not defined anywhere else in our code, to something that is defined in the code, which is the commercial core area. And that area is defined at this map here. Essentially everything that is shaded is the commercial core area, and everything outside of it is the non-commercial area. Alternatives for the City Council tonight are to adopt Ordinance 1470, that makes all the amendments included in Chapter 17.08, 1782 for historic preservation, 17.85 for home occupations, 17.88 for temporary use permits, or the City Council could adopt the ordinance with modifications. They may continue the ordinance or reject the ordinance. The recommendation tonight is for City Council to adopt the ordinance as presented. The timing coming up, should the City Council move to adopt, there would be a second reading scheduled for July 9th with an effective date on August 8th. Also upcoming is a subsequent ordinance, which would be Ordinance 1471. This addresses the interplay of temporary use permits and filming permits. That is scheduled for first reading on July 9th, with a second reading scheduled for July 23rd, and then thereafter, August 22nd would be the effective date. So the general public can stay informed. We keep the website up to date. This QR code gives a quick link to that web page where we make all those updates and keep the public informed. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Senior Planner Wolf. All right, fellow council members, questions?
None here.
All right. Madam City Clerk, I'd like to now open up for public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards on this item?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. There's one speaker card received from Steve Roscoe.
Mr. Roscoe.
Good evening. Yeah, I guess I'm the only one showing up for this. I really don't know what 1471 is that Josh just talked about, but it has to do with the film. And when I attended on May 28th, that's when he brought it up, that there was some potential conflict with the film permit. And I really haven't seen any update. I haven't had anything exactly about what 1471 is about. But to stay within my time limit, what I wanted to talk about is that the 28th, it was proposed, the Planning Commission said reduce R1 non-commercial to 1 TUP a year, and the council entertained the idea of upping it to 2, which is fine. In theory, it sounds great, but the idea behind it was that maybe a fundraiser would like to have a charitable fundraiser at a certain property for the school, for whatever. And that's a good idea on plan. But I don't quite agree with it, and part of it is because if you look at the statistics of all the TUPs that have been issued over the last 5 or 6 years, yesterday and today I looked at the city website for 22, 23, and 24. There's only one property that repeats any TUPs, and of course that's 89 Olive. In 22 they had 7. In 23 they had 3. This year the only 2 R1 zones TUPs have been the one on Oak Crest and one on West Carter. So, and I know when I appeared in front of council in 22, I'd looked at 8, 19, 20, and 21, and Lavender was the only one that ever had any repeat. So I think that's becoming a moot point. And I don't even see where, I haven't seen any other property in non-commercial that has asked for 1 TPU in a year. So all said, if 2 is what you wish to go with, it's a fine idea. And I think it could be correlated to the potential 1471, which is the film. Because if I advocate for the removal of the exemption of film permits for and put it back as an exemption to the TUP process. And that means that people in an R1, like I live in on Olive, can actually rent their house out for a filming, make some money, city gets a permit fee, and they could do it twice a year. But if you look at the history of R1 zones for film permits, there isn't any property that's had repeat business in any calendar year. And even in the commercial Starbucks is the only one that's had like 2 in 1 year. So it's kind of like a moot point. The only reason anybody is going to want to have multiple
film permits in an R1 is because they are a commercial outfit. And my time's up. So, thank you for your time, attention to the matter.
Great. Do we have any other public comments?
We do not, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Did we receive any by email?
And there were no email submissions either.
All right, so I'd like to close public comment, bring it back for council for direction.
I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 1470.
All right,
I'll second.
all right. Any further discussion?
I was just gonna add before we moved, just in talking to the public, just to validate why we've moved it to 2, is the Youngs who live on North Lima, as well as Miles, who was the recent Oak Crest. We were talking this weekend, and they already pulled their TUP this last year for the wine and whiskey, which they do every year. And the year before COVID, they also had a wedding for a renewal of their vows for the Semino family. So they pulled 2 TUPs that year. And Miles pulled one for this year. And then she was saying if there was only one, they had a big birthday party for one of their children coming up. And she's like, well, then I wouldn't be able to have a birthday party for my child if it's over 25 people. And I said, oh, you're right, that's why we changed it to 2. And it wouldn't be fair for, that's what, family to give their home for free to an organization to fundraise and then not be able to celebrate their own and even have, say, a large, party that's a family-oriented party. So I listened to her, and I really value how much they give to our city and our citizens and neighbors. And no complaints at those residents that we've ever had during those parties, so.
I just want to make a comment to the planning department planner Wolf. The gender report was phenomenal. The cleanup is exemplary, and seeing that map of the central core area really, I think, galvanized all of what we're looking and considering, and kind of it cured a lot of the issues we had. So I'm grateful for yourself and staff for not just the presentation, but the staff report was amazing and easy to follow. Thank you. And I think we have
Well, I'll echo that on the presentation. You went through and allayed my concerns about having strong findings for this. I think that's really important for getting these. So, and I'll echo what Councilmember Lowe said, is that we had Mr. Prince here talking about it, and we had someone else here talking about the need for these are people that support our community. That it's not many that have them, but I think going from 1 to 2 makes sense. So we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any final discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion passes. All right. Now we're on to discussion items. First discussion item, or I guess now the third discussion item, is is from Management Analyst Carlson, and discussing the wildlife plan update.
Yes, good evening, members of the City Council. Staff is recommending that the council approve the 2024 update of the Sierra Madre Wildlife Management Plan this evening. I mentioned in my report that I would provide updated statistics real briefly for you, and I was able to get some information just this afternoon from Chief Barrientos. In 2024, the total number of calls for service for bears is 133. Contrast that with last year, 2023 through June, was 123. So it's relatively close. We're a little bit higher. We have a few more days in June to add to that. 2024 intrusions. We have 7 total. 1 is a garage. That was included with the Sierra Madre Police statistics, so I'm leaving it there. But more importantly, 5 attempts in June, as opposed to just 2 last year in June of 2023. And with that, I'd like to move over to something a little bit more happy and exhilarating for staff and a lot of my friends at Fish and Wildlife, my Natural Resources Commission, and really dedicated volunteers in this city. And essentially, we've come to a consensus on this wildlife management plan. That's between city staff, the Sierra Madre Police Department, and the Fish and Wildlife Department. Approving this plan will immediately set in motion our Wildlife Watch program. I have a call with Lieutenant Nick Molesbury and Janet Munson with the Wildlife Watch coordination team with Fish and Wildlife for tomorrow morning. And I have a large number of volunteers that are at the edge of their seat ready to dive in for this Wildlife Watch program. So again, staff is recommending that the City Council approve the 2024 update of the Sierra Madre Wildlife Management Plan. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Management Analyst Carlson. Questions? Yes, Councilmember Goss.
Read the report, great report. To me, the idea sounds fantastic. I'd like to know more about the Wildlife Watch program. I don't see a lot of details here. Is that coming in the next meeting? Is that?
Well, I note in the report that there is going to be a report from Fish and Wildlife themselves, tentatively scheduled for July 23rd. That's going to be a really good time to check in and see how we're doing.
In terms of the actual workings of the plan.
Sure. As much.
Can you just outline it for us?
Yeah, as much as I know, it was developed actually for coyotes with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We are going to be the first one that is focused on bears. Now, you may have seen in the wildlife plan, we have 3 species of focus, so we'll cover all 3. But this is the first one with a bear impetus, for lack of better saying. The Fish and Wildlife Department staff will meet with, at this time, 2 leaders of volunteer organizations in Sierra Madre and staff, and lay out the expectations of volunteers, of requirements for things as simple as background checks if they are working for the city of Sierra Madre and also representing the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
That's the part I'm unclear about. So we have volunteers. Who are they going to be reporting to? Our city staff or the state or both, and how would that work?
I am anticipating it's going to be a bit of both, and I think I'll get more clarification too in my calls tomorrow.
Okay.
So as soon as we get through some of the initial discussions with the leaders of these 2 volunteer groups, training sessions will happen for the volunteers who want to participate in the Wildlife Watch program. I understand there are 3 training dates. 2 5-hour-ish training dates in the classroom and 1 5-hour-ish in the field with Fish and Wildlife representatives, practicing going up to people's houses, informing them of the contents of our wildlife management plan, and also being available for any type of discussions that maybe the person is uncomfortable with staff or Fish and Wildlife. We have another buffer of volunteers that they can talk to about some of their concerns on our wildlife.
So are they going to be doing some kind of patrol in given areas of the city, or are they going to be doing canvassing door to door? What is the idea here? When they're out patrolling, what are they doing? What are they going to be doing?
From what I understand, it would be a little bit more scheduled canvassing as opposed to patrol. But there will also be a number of occasions where Fish and Wildlife and or staff may ask representatives of Wildlife Watch to address a specific complaint or a specific concern. Recommendations on how you can prevent a bear from living under your deck. That type of, finite recommendations, person to person, is really what I'm excited to get into. We have such a wealth of volunteers in this city that I think this is going to be a big help for us.
So there'd be some kind of a clearinghouse communication center, like a number that people could call, and then somebody in the watch program would contact them and then maybe help them in a situation like that?
That's an idea. Again, I apologize. I don't have all the specifics we're looking for, and I think since it is bear-centric this time, it is going to evolve a little bit too with the Fish and Wildlife Department, but they are also very excited to get going on this. And we can bring it back July 23rd and give you an update as to where we are and what I may have learned about what Fish and Wildlife is
is going to organize it.
One last question. So is the idea to kind of get a representative group involved in this from different parts of the city, or is this going to be primarily oriented towards the groups that were here the other night, or is this going to be?
I believe
whoever shows up, is that basically it?
we will start with the two groups because they are already organized and they are passionate about this.
Right.
It could definitely evolve into other groups, or maybe these two groups just grow with this program.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a discussion that it kind of also merges with a traditional neighborhood watch,
Mm-hmm.
where the public safety department's a little bit more at the forefront of that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Councilmember Go.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. Management Analyst Carlson, I plotted this, this plan and the amendments to the city manager today. It's amazing. It's a document that anybody can pick up within a couple minutes and read and understand, and it's very clear.
Good.
Going back a year and a half ago was a little rambly and, yeah, thick. This is an impressive document. But I have just some questions, I think, for my benefit and the benefit of our citizens. When we're looking at the 3 focus wildlife, and I know I've really been pushing for, as far as bears, responsible hazing, because of the what could go wrong aspect of hazing a bear into somebody else's yard and who's there, and if a stressed bear might do something unanticipated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see the responsible hazing words used within the black bear focus wildlife section. Within coyote and mountain lion, coyote I see hazing, and then in mountain lion I don't see anything about hazing, and I don't really know what to do myself, and I'm sure the citizens really don't know what to do if they came upon a mountain lion. So I want to get a little clarification on that, and I think that flows to the response plan, which again is phenomenal with the green, the red, the orange, the yellow, all those colors and what to do. And I think responsible hazing was mentioned in all of that, and it's my understanding this is for all 3 focus wildlife. So if you can just kind of give us a little education on maybe how to, we've talked about black bear a lot, but coyote and mountain lion, what hazing looks like there, if it's even appropriate, and what we ought to do.
Sure, and glad, I appreciate you bringing that up. That was one of the major discussions that staff had with Fish and Wildlife, was the introduction of responsible hazing, using a qualifier with hazing. They asked me, where did you ever hear of that? And I said, well, I have a council member, and he makes a lot of sense. We're finding out that you really, and it's focused on bears, that you really have to be aware of your surroundings, and that there's no 100% thing, do this every single time. Make that bear feel uncomfortable, unwanted in your home. Now that translates to coyotes and mountain lions. I don't believe that they really wanted to get so specific and include the qualifier of responsible, and when you're talking about hazing coyotes. And I think if you look into the plan, there's not really much of an emphasis on hazing mountain lions. So we can get into that a little bit more, but that was
Should we not haze mountain lions? I mean, it'd be so rare to see one. It's becoming more frequent, is my understanding. I used to mountain bike quite a bit, and what I learned was things like don't be small, don't sit down and change your tube.
Right.
Stand up and change your tube.
Right.
Don't be a vulnerable target. Is that kind of what you've learned through this education?
I have learned, and you mentioned, the plan has some good specifics on if you're in the mountains, if you're on a trail, some of those last minute things to do with the mountain lion. In my mind, if I wanted to haze a mountain lion, I actually saw one, I would make sure I was in a car, I was inside a house or next to the door. I don't think I would do the same type of hazing for a mountain lion, and the rare chance I see one, that I've been doing for the bears.
Have a defense, is what you're kind of saying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And an escape route for them.
For them.
For them. All these, right? An escape route for the animal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to reiterate that it was really educational for me even, though, like, we've been prepped on all these things to read through your report and the final, plan right here, that so many interesting things that we are coming into, like we are seeing so many more mountain lions, and what we did before with bears and coyotes has changed slightly, obviously, because we have to now deal with them inside a home, and that never happened. We had to deal with them like in the school area, that never happened. And then things we tried before didn't work, and so it's interesting to see that's happening. I'm hoping that this moves us forward towards remedying these issues that we have, and getting them out of our town, just as for their safety as well as ours, without any more further potential of conflict. It is scary that we had 5 in one day, and that people, felt threatened, and it was scary. And when people are scared, that's when bad things do happen too. Same with any potential danger that comes upon us. So I think your reports and what you've presented tonight, and what you've worked with so diligently with our groups and our staff and everybody's, is phenomenal. And I appreciate all the hard work you guys have done, and let's hope that Fish and Wildlife then comes and starts to understand how hard you've worked, and then takes up their part of their responsibility.
I hope that they're overwhelmed by the passion and commitment of our volunteers, above and beyond staff.
Well, I don't think there's a question on that, because I've seen the dedication of them. I had a couple of questions more about the statistics, just to understand a little bit, so maybe this is Captain Amos, they can help us. So I see in the May 1st through 31st, we had one of chasing a citizen on a mountain trail. We had a habituated bear on a roof. And then this month we had one hit by a car. So I'm wondering if you can help, if someone can help give me a little bit more, and then of course had one in a swimming pool. I'm more concerned about the other ones on the trail, on the roof, and hit by a car. If we could get a little bit more detail on that, just so we understand part of the challenge we've got. I know we're talking about the plan tonight, so that's not lost on me, but just kind of help me thinking through like how we're going to enact this plan and how we're going to use it going forward. Understanding the current incidents we have would be helpful for me.
Sure, and I did just want to kind of touch on the overview statistics. I received voluminous details in the report I get from the Sierra Madre Police Department.
Only 17 pages.
Yeah, but there's a lot of detail, as you pointed out. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Captain Amos, and between us, we'll try to answer your question.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. I know the incident where the bear was hit by a vehicle. That wasn't not actually reported directly to the police department. That was actually posted on one of the local social media groups. When we found out about it, we notified Fish and Game of the incident. It's because they were actually in the area doing their patrols at the time to see if we can remedy that situation. The bear on the house and obviously the bear in the pool, I'm not too familiar with those two, but those are reoccurring situations that we have all the time. Even though when it's getting hotter, the bears come out more often. I did cover patrol last week, and we did respond to a residence down on Orange Grove. By the time we got there, the bear had moved along, but the resident had showed us photos of the bear having fun in their pool, trying to beat the heat. Those incidents do occur, and they are occurring more and more often. So.
Okay. So on the resident hit by the car, or the bear hit by the car and the resident, did you follow up with the resident to verify it? I understand it was on social media. Did you?
So I had my staff try and follow up with the individual. I believe we did. I don't know if Fish and Game did. I don't know from there.
And so you were able to verify it above and beyond what was on social media?
Yes.
And is it part of your policy that when you do that to encourage people to report it to you, not just on social media?
We encourage everyone to report any wild animal encounters to us. It helps, obviously, it helps on the tracking portion of it. It helps with accurate notification to Fish and Wildlife of the issues that are occurring. And when we do see it on any of the local social media sites, we attempt to contact that individual to get information from them. Sometimes we are successful at it, and sometimes we are not. So,
Got it.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may add, it's really important for our residents to understand that if there is an injured animal, bear, mountain lion, coyote, it's very important that they report that to the police department so that they can get in touch with Fish and Wildlife, because an injured animal is going to act a lot different than an animal that's just roaming the streets. So we want to urge our residents, anytime they see an injured wildlife, anytime they see injured wildlife, to please report that to our police department or Fish and Wildlife directly.
Great, thank you. All right. Chief Barrientos, you came down. Did you have anything to add, or? Okay, I just saw you come down. All right. Any other questions? All right. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody that has submitted cards for public comment?
Our first speaker is Caroline Brown.
Good evening, Ms. Brown.
Forgive me for forgetting how to pick up a green card or yellow card. When I walked in the door, I was looking at all the police here, waiting to talk to their agenda item, which was very important. Let me have you look first at just at the cartoon part of this thing that I've put together, and I have one for you if enough have passed on. This came out of the Los Angeles Times 3 days ago. Marmaduke, nice character. And it says everything about what we're facing here in Sierra Madre as well with animals. Can you smell my sandwich from outside? The only time I had a bear on my property was a mother bear and her cub, this perhaps 15 years ago, and it was a Tupperware jar of a box of birdseed that was spoiled that I had put outside and forgotten about. And I moved it to throw it away, and I didn't get it thrown away. It was sitting at my back door. I'm pretty sure the mother bear was saying to that cub, I mean, we do anthropomorphize this stuff within its life. What stupid person allowed this good birdseed to spoil because it was moldy? So I'm on social media a lot, and I sound like a broken record, I know that. It's the school teacher in me. But ammonia is the last smell, the last stink of decomposition. Mother bears know how to teach their cubs not to eat rotten food. So we say this over and over again of how to mask the smell of your everyday garbage, and people are trying to do their best with their green waste, adding that garbage. It may or may not be working, because I've had a broken trash green waste can forever now. I just freeze my stuff and put it out the morning of, and then I try to get my green waste can back off the street before the dog walkers stick their poop in it to smell it up for me for the rest of the week. So it's an ongoing situation. The city's wildlife management plan refers to the fact that the bear's sense of smell is the bloodhound's sense of smell is 300 times that of an average dog. And I think multiplying that and having it in your document, that makes it 2,100 times more than a human. And we have no idea about this because we can't smell it. We can't smell our birdseed. I've watched a coyote eat birdseed off a snowbank in the dead of winter up in Mount Baldy Village. Food is everything. We have to realize how to keep food away from our wildlife. So in terms of what the training will be for your people, it's so that everybody's approaching this from the same point of view rather than here, there, and everywhere. It's a standardized program that's put together throughout all the cities that have put together a wildlife watch. And I went to one meeting down in Orange County years ago on coyote with a specialist there for the ag department, and the people that they were organizing to give out the information were from the garden club, because it was a group of people that was already in existence. So that's the idea about it, is get the people that are already in existence, give them a standardized
fine.
training, and they
You
will
could
be
wrap
able
it
to
up.
go forward with it, with what's needed for the city.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
Madam City Clerk, do we have any other comment cards?
There are no other speaker cards at this time, and the city clerk's office did not receive any emails on this topic.
Great. All right. So, unless there are any other public comments, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. We've had some discussion on it, kind of through questions, as we often do. But any other discussion on it?
I just agree with Councilmember Garcia. I think the upgrades were very good. I agree it's a very clear and succinct document, and I think it'll help. I think it's definitely going to be helpful.
Great.
Is this going to be, obviously if it passes, a document that's readily available to our residents? Because like I said, it's something that's easily digestible to read in a few minutes. So I would encourage us to be able to get this in front of our residents.
Councilmember Garcia, this will be uploaded to our city's website.
Do we have like a quick link to it? So like City of Sierra Madre /wildlife or City of Sierra Madre /bears or something like that that could make it quick for people to get to?
We can make sure that happens. We are in the process of evaluating our website and cleaning it up and making it more user-friendly. It's gonna be an ongoing effort, but.
Always is.
And I know we've been using our Kirsten Court screen a lot more. It's great to see things on that. A QR code up there would probably be a good idea as well.
Good idea.
I'm sure with your looking at the website too, that you guys have probably figured out too, that the way that the algorithms change now and what you have to do for your websites is a little different on what you do on a Google search. So if I Google search currently on city website items, sometimes I'll get something that was previously on there that's not on there at all now, but it's the link for what used to be there, and that will pop up. It's interesting. So there's some way that companies obviously change that now so that when you Google wildlife Sierra Madre, you're not getting the page from 2 years ago.
Great. I'll echo what others said. I really appreciate this plan. I know a lot of work has gone into it for many years. I'm glad to see we're here. I'm even more excited to be moving into the next stage of this, to be able to doing the training and to get the dedicated volunteers from Sierra Madre Bear Lovers and Canyon Bear Society. Thank you. Out there in training. I know that they're very eager to do it, and I'm looking forward to having that happen soon. So unless there's any other discussion, I will entertain a motion to adopt the wildlife management plan.
Well, you go.
I move to approve the 2024 update of the Sierra Madre Wildlife Management Plan.
I second.
All right. Any final discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Excellent. And on to our final agenda item, AB 481. Captain Amos.
Thank you. Good evening again. I am here to present the police department's annual Assembly Bill 481 report. This will be a shorter version of the full report that was posted onto our department website. The topics that will be the topics that will be covered will be a little background on the Assembly Bill, some of the requirements, how we fund the equipment, some definitions according to the Assembly Bill, our current inventory, and then how overall it affects the city of Sierra Madre. So in 2021, Governor Newsom signed an Assembly Bill that essentially mandated law enforcement agencies within the state of equipment that we have already been pre-existing using as military equipment. It designated 14 different categories. And in 2022, per the Assembly Bill, City Council adopted a city ordinance, approved our policy of our existing equipment that we have been using up to that point. As one of the requirements, every year we have to present a report to City Council. Within the report or within the process, City Council reviews the ordinance again, reviews our policy, reviews the use and equipment that we have, and makes a determination from there. Recapping some of the requirements are community feedback, presentation to City Council, the annual report for which is what's being presented now. In that, the City Council can approve the ordinance or policy and the equipment which will allow us to use it. They can modify anything within that, or they can essentially not approve it, and at that point the law enforcement agency will have to stop the use of that equipment and look at some fundamental changes on how we deal with situations. Ways in which we fund the equipment is obviously through the general fund, any capital improvement funds, local, state, or federal grants, repurposing of other city equipment or resources, transferring equipment from either the Department of Defense or a state program. Currently, under that program, we do not have any equipment that qualifies for military equipment. That's been set forth by the Assembly Bill. Of the 15 different items, the 15 different types of equipment, the department uses unmanned or unpiloted drones. We have specialized firearms and ammunition less than 50 caliber, less than 50 caliber, excuse me. Munitions that are used either tear gas or OC, and then any kinetic type weapons or munitions. Our current inventory, this shows the list of the items that we currently have in inventory, which is a very wide range. It includes shotguns used in a less than lethal format, 40 millimeter launchers, pepper ball, the pepper ball tactical launcher system. We use several different types of drones. Also, additionally, because we're part of FSET, our FSET personnel have AR-15 M4 type rifles, so that's also included. First, we will discuss our drones. We currently have 5 within the department. The drones give us the ability to safely survey a location or survey an incident from a distance. We're able to use the drones and put them forward instead of putting our personnel or putting the public in harm. We've used them to assist outside agencies and pre-plan operations for search warrants. We've used them also for handling some bear calls or wild animal calls. If the bear was in the backyard of a location, we would put the drone there to see if the bear is there before the officers make entry in. We've had a total, in the calendar year of 2023, 31 missions. The missions have been laid out there. We've assisted Homeland Security. We've assisted other outside agencies. We've assisted some state investigative agencies with pre-search warrant operations, getting information about a location that they're going to serve a search warrant on. Typically, we use the drones when an incident occurs, they're not used in a surveillance type situation. It's an activist incident that is happening. Officers are currently on scene, and we're using it in that situation. Some of the drones we're able to use them within a residence, so we can send the drone in. to survey survey the location, clear rooms, clear hallways. That way, we aren't sending personnel in there. Once we make a determination that that area is clear, we can move forward and secure it step by step. We've received no complaints from the public or about the use of our drones. Each time a drone is deployed, our drone supervisor, who is Sergeant Kazal, does a after-action audit to make sure that the equipment was used properly. We were within policy, and obviously, if there's any issues in the deployment, he addresses that, and we overcome it. Annually, we did not spend any money on any acquisition, training, or other cost. And the only additional thing is that our indoor drone is a little bit older, so probably within the next couple of years, we'll be looking to get some more indoor type drones that give us a little bit more flexibility in the way that we can use them. Next, we will be discussing our kinetic energy munitions, our beanbag shotgun launchers. These are essentially Remington 870 rifles, shotguns, sorry, that are civilly used, are beanbag type rounds. This piece of equipment, plus the pepper balls and the 40 millimeters, are equipment that we use in a wide variety of different situations. They assist with de-escalation of incidents. We're dealing as far as from an armed individual to a crowd situation to somebody who is dealing with some type of mental distress type situation. It gives us the ability to keep a further distance and not approach so close, Jesus, excuse me. And we're able to deploy these to hopefully take the person into a situation where we can assist them better. We have used these, two of the items, the pepper ball and the beanbag, have also been deployed in some situations where we have responded to wild animals. We don't use the 40 millimeter in that particular fashion. We have not received any complaints regarding this particular item. Each time that either if it's deployed or it's used, an audit is done to ensure that they were used properly. There were no policy violations or no audit violations that were done. The only money that we've spent on this particular item is about $700, and that's because every 2 years, officers get retrained on the item, and the 2-year cycle fell within 2023, so we depleted a lot of our beanbag rounds, so we purchased more. Next, we'll discuss our pepper ball launcher. This is very near and dear to my heart because the first round of pepper ball launchers that we received, I actually put together the program for that, and it's been a very successful program for us. This piece of equipment, again, is used in a multitude of different situations. It can be. It's used for de-escalation purposes when dealing with somebody armed, when dealing with a crowd situation, we can use it in that. If there's a situation where somebody, again, going back to the somebody is having some type of mental distress situation and they're becoming more violent tendencies, we can use that there also. This gives us the ability, again, to be at a distance and deploy this in a less than lethal option. It's very painful because I have been shot by it, and the pepper from it is not the greatest thing because I actually had to go through that too. So the other option that we do use it in is, again, we do use it with when we do respond to some wild animal calls, bears, coyotes. I did come across a mountain lion. I didn't get out my car for that call. It was late at night. Kind of honked on my horn and shined my spotlight, but it can be used in those situations. We have deployed it at different calls. Mainly, it's been for the last calendar year. It's been for bear-related or wild animal calls. That's mostly where we have deployed it at. We haven't had much other calls related to that. We have not received any complaints, and obviously we always do an audit of the way that we use the equipment, and there have been no policy violations. This is another piece of equipment that fell under the 2-year cycle for the retraining, and that's the $300 that we spent on some training rounds and also to resupply our rounds that we use in the field. Moving on to the next item, which is the 40mm launcher. This is a system that can be used for a wide variety of different situations. We mostly will deploy this in situations where we need a de-escalation type tool in a multitude of different types of calls. It's been deployed at a couple of different calls throughout the calendar year, but it has not been used. We have not received any complaints when we deployed it. A after action review was conducted, and there were no policy violations or anything of that nature. We did last year when I presented we did get approved for 5 launchers total. Within the last calendar year, we purchased 2, so now we have 3 total. And that's the acquisition cost that you see. The additional $545 was for, again, replacement of training rounds. We conducted updated training on the piece of equipment within the 2023 calendar year. We are looking to purchase essentially 1 more to have 4. That way we can have 3 out on patrol and an extra one at the station just in case something occurs or we have an incident where we serve a search warrant. We'd like to have options there, and we'd like to bring the 40mm. So if all our folks are out on patrol and they have all 3, we have that additional one to be able to use it in that situation. One of the last things is the specialized firearm and ammunition less than .50 caliber. This is for our department, the Colt M4 Select Fire Carbine. This piece of equipment is the primary duty weapon for our Foothill Special Enforcement team. Different from Foothill Special Enforcement and Patrol is Foothill is a SWAT-based team, and their primary weapon system is a rifle. Their secondary weapon system is a handgun. Unlike for Patrol, my primary weapon is the handgun, the secondary is the rifle. So to have operators as part of the team, they require a select fire fully auto rifle, and that is the M4 carbine. It has been deployed for our 3 operators out on 5 call-outs in the calendar year. The call-outs are situations where it is an immediate response by the team. A couple of them have been barricaded individuals. One I can recall for sure was we assisted in the city of Laverne. They had a pursuit. The pursuit ended. The gentleman barricaded himself in the vehicle. He was believed to have weapons, so they called in FSET to come in and handle that situation. Jesus, this thing's killing me. They called in FSET to handle that situation. That's a call out. A pre-planned incident is my detective bureau has a search warrant that they're going to serve a month from now. We do our workup of the location and the individuals. We sit down with the FSET team commanders said to commander, say, okay, this is something that we're going to serve for you. That is a pre-planned incident, and then they come out and serve the search warrant for us. Other than that, the operators get approximately about 184 hours of training throughout the calendar year. So that equates to a minimum of about every other week they are doing training. So twice a month at minimum, the team as a whole does training of movement, shooting, working out, whatever training curriculum is set at that time. For the total of all three for the calendar year, they had a total of 552 hours worth of training with the weapon system. We have not received any complaints or concerns. Every time that either training is done, a call out is done, or a pre-planned incident is conducted, a after action report is completed. If training, it's just reviewed by the supervisors, and they make a determination if there was any issues or concerns or problems that occurred. They do the report, and then each agency that was involved gets a copy of that report to review it as well. In all of the different situations, there were no policy violations or anything of that nature. We haven't spent any, we're not looking to get any additional rifles this upcoming year. And that's really it for that particular item. How this affects the city, with city council approval, the police department can maintain the level of equipment that we use to protect the community and the visitors that come to the city. This equipment is a vital part of our tools that we use. And we feel it's very important that we keep access to them. Additionally, staff will continue to monitor and report annually on the reporting requirements. Without city approval, we will have to immediately discontinue the use of the equipment. And that means that I will have to walk over to my department and we will take that equipment out of service until whatever time frame that we can get it approved again. We'll have to redesign our policies and procedures on how we deal with different incidents once those tools are taken away, and then we feel that it would negatively impact the community as a whole. Why is the equipment necessary? We always aim to have a peaceful and safe resolution of any incident that we are involved in. That is the utmost importance of any law enforcement agency, especially your law enforcement agency here at Sierra Madre. Our job is to keep the peace, keep people safe, and we feel that these tools that we have used for many years prior to the passing of this Assembly bill helps us do that. So, with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Captain Amos. All right, questions? Yes.
3 questions. Great report, very informative.
Yes.
Is it the policy of our department to use bean bags on bears if necessary?
If necessary, yes.
Okay.
It is a evaluation made by the officer and the supervisor on scene.
Right.
We typically do deploy either a beanbag or a pepper ball, which gives us the option to have that instead of a lethal option to move the bear
So
along.
the officer uses a discretion, he can use either one or both?
Yes. But
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Can I follow up on that? Have we used a beanbag or pepper ball on a bear in the last year?
Yes, we have. We have 3 incidents where we deployed at minimum the pepper ball on a bear to disperse the bear.
So if I can ask a follow-up, then why isn't it showing up on the report? Like you see on the drones, like it's very detailed of every report that we've got. You see in the FSET, you know, even the pre-planned incidents or the call-outs, they're there. But we don't have like number of incidents for the kinetic munitions, the pepper balls, or the bean bags.
I apologize for that. In that section of the report, I was mostly focused on if it was deployed on an individual and not referencing
Okay.
wild animals. So that is the reason why it's not there. So,
Got it.
yes.
My next question, have we ever used drones to haze bears, and if we haven't, why not?
I can't answer the first part of that question on the hazing. We have used to get a overall aerial view of an area where the bear is to make a determination on how we approach.
Seems like you could bring it down close to the bear and kind of buzz him and kind of.
It's very silent.
It's you
Well, then put a speaker on it.
you might be able to. I don't know that specifically if that's even possible. I would have to talk to.
Just a thought.
I would have to talk to my sergeant
Okay.
about that.
And where did you see the mountain lion?
It was when I was on patrol. I was down on Highland and Lima.
Is that a fact?
It was about, and I remember very vividly, it was about 2 in the morning. I was going eastbound on Highland from Lima, and I'm driving down the street, see a car, I see my lights illuminate the eyes on the street side of the car, and then from the angle where I was at, I illuminated up and I could see the tail on the other side of the car on the sidewalk side.
Big one.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, this is something I'm not getting out of my car for. Kind of stayed in my vehicle, called it in. We moved the mountain lion along. At one point, a couple of times, it looked back at me like, why are you bothering me? I'm just for my midnight stroll. But it eventually did go up into the hills. And then I think about a week later, I was not working, but somebody else was, and they told me they saw the exact mountain lion, but that time it had gotten something to eat and was just dragging it along the street, taking it back to, I'm assuming, to its den. So,
thank you.
Yes.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
I just had a few
Councilmember.
questions. So, when I was able to train with you guys, I really got to see how all of these function and work, and it was really educational, so thank you.
Yes.
How often do you guys do your qualifying certification, or I guess drilling, I don't even know how to say it, with these different weapons?
Well, I kind of don't refer to them as weapons. They're more systems.
Sorry, systems.
Yes. It depends. We have a biannual certification where everybody has to go through and retake testing, retake drills in a simulated field situation. So that's done every 2 years. It kind of falls under for post, which mandates our certifications throughout the state. We have a 2-year perishable skills cycle, so we kind of follow that trend. But typically, in some situations where we, at minimum every quarter, go out to the range and qualify with our actual firearms. Some of those systems that may be incorporated into that to provide additional training. So.
And then with the drones, do your officers all have to be trained on this? Do they have to have their small aircraft license, whatever Form 7 that is, or anything like that? Do they have to qualify that way?
In the 2024 report, I'll be putting in, I actually put myself through a drone manager's course to get a better overall understanding of the program. In certain situations, yes, our personnel do need to be trained through the FAA program. That's typically when we're going to use it in a more, we've used it in some situations where for encampments and we're going over high-end areas, or we're using more of our bigger drone to do crowd control or something to that effect. But typically, if we're gonna use it in an indoor situation where, recently we actually did serve a search warrant, the officers put the drone into the location first to kind of clear it as best as they could. In that situation, they don't have to have the license, from my understanding, but they do have to have some in-house training on how to use the equipment properly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you were gonna have it out the parade coming up in a few weeks.
We're gonna try and get out there, yes, yes.
I did find it really useful. I mean, in other cities, when we had civil unrest with coming up with things, it was one of the safest ways to keep officers safe. So I was hoping you guys use it just, for those reasons as well, especially with the bear, so you don't have to go into a house.
Yes, yeah, my training program, the training class that I went to showed a number of different options. The trainers were from Huntington Beach, so they use it a lot more. They use it in those crowd control type situations where they have stationary locations, and then the drone responds to the response first, kind of gives the overall view. It kind of takes the place of the helicopter. The helicopter is actually much higher.
A lot more expensive.
It's a lot more expensive, has a much wider view, but the drone gives you that ability also. Yeah, we are planning on having it out there. We are hoping that happens, so yes.
And then my last question is, just curious, because I know fire departments are using drones also for, and search and rescue groups to find people and all these things. Why don't they have to have like an AB 481 for their drones, but PD does?
So specifically, the Assembly bill was drafted for law enforcement only. It doesn't, it's not for fire-related or search and rescue. It's 15 different categories that the state felt under military equipment. So law enforcement uses, in no less terms, California feels that law enforcement uses this equipment in a military style. Fire department doesn't use it more of a search and rescue, or they have a fire.
Houses too, to search for victims too, but yeah, I guess it's the use.
Yes, yes. So yes.
Right, yeah. When this bill was adopted, some of the larger police departments were buying retired military equipment and then using it in, I don't know if they used it, but the city council members and members of the community were surprised to know that they were like tanks or like armored vehicles that no one knew existed, but the police had the budget and they purchased it.
Or it wasn't even in a budget, from what I understand. It was like they were getting rid of it. It was surplus, and it's like, well, we could scrap it or we could give it away, and so. Yeah,
that is the on one of the slides for the funding, the 1033 program, the 1028 program, the Department of Defense program. That is that program. You can get more than military equipment. I know one agency that got about 20 computers for their department or office equipment. So there's a wide range of the way that's used, but the focus was on the military type equipment. So yes.
Councilmember Lou, anything else?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yeah, just one question regarding the drone program. You mentioned in your excuse me. You mentioned in your presentation that we have some indoor drones and we're looking to maybe upgrade what we're currently using. And I went through the inventories, and I see that there's one that we have two of that go indoors, and we're not seeking anymore, and it's probably not the best one. And then we have another one where we have one, but we're seeking to have two. And it says the Sierra Madre Police Department would utilize the Nano Plus drone for interior operations to enhance public and officer safety. While it is not the optimal choice for interior operations, it offers a significantly less fiscal impact than the Loki MK2. So, is this just being real, was this a budgetary response? We're going to go for like the lower model that's probably not the best use because it's cheaper in our budget. We have budget constraints.
We went with that model simply for that. We were working within the budget that we had to purchase the equipment that we felt we needed. and that is the reason why we went in that direction. We actually were able to get a discount on those items, so that further assisted with us at minimum starting up the program. And we felt that at the time when we originally started it, that we would work through and see if this actually works or what works better, and then at that time we would approach looking at how to fund the purchase of the new items. So.
Okay, so for now, okay, I appreciate that. Obviously, I'd want the better equipment for you because it's, I don't know what the difference in cost is, but like we've said, it's better for stressful situations and better for our officer safety. So I want you guys to have the best, as long as it's within reason, but thank you for that.
Yes, I too will always like to get the best, but we also have to, as you mentioned, kind of be.
We've talked about the budget a lot
Yes,
today in the last few
be
meetings.
fiscally responsible in the way that we make our purchases and make our decisions. So that's always a factor.
And I do appreciate that. Yes. Thank you.
So I'll follow up on Councilmember Garcia's question. So I noticed the initial cost of the first Evo 2 was $12,000, and then the Evo 2 Pro 6K is $2,500. Is that just because of the generation and technology, or was really, because it seemed odd to me that the Evo 2 is $12,000 and then the Evo 2 Pro 6K is $2,500. That just didn't, that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Can you help me square that circle?
So I believe the 25,000 one was a actual kit. So it came with the drone plus a couple of batteries and
Got it.
And the I don't know the technical term, but I call it the controller.
Yep.
So it came within a case with those additional items, so the additional cost was for those items also. The lower cost was just for the drone itself. So,
I understood.
yes.
Great.
I know that we, well, since we're talking about drones, we're actually going to be on tomorrow having a vendor come in and demo a indoor drone for us that we are potentially looking at to see its effectiveness for our department. It is obviously, as time progresses, 1 month, one thing is one way. 6 months later, you got 10 million add-ons to it, and it does way better things. So this is going to be one of the evaluations to see if this piece of equipment really works for us. If it's something that we really are looking to get, and then we will look at budget and see how we can make that happen.
So given Assembly Bill 481, let's say this is something you want to purchase and it's within budget.
Mm-hmm.
You come to us after you purchase, and
No.
It has to be approved by us ahead of time, so you can't even purchase it?
Yes, so as part of the Assembly Bill process, any one of the 15 items, we have to post that we are looking to get the item and everything and all the available information about it on our department website to the public. The public gets to, we have to notify the public that we are potentially getting a new drone. We post it to our department website. The community is able to view that information and provide their comments on it, for it or against it. After the 30 days, we come before City Council. We present that we are looking to get this piece of equipment, explain the reasons why, telling about what the piece of equipment is, letting you know if there were any concerns from the public. At that point in time, City Council will make the decision of yay or nay.
I seem to recall that with the M4 carbines when we joined FSET, you came before us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's a similar process.
Yes, and then when you look at some of the numbers, like you had mentioned the one drone, we have possession of one, but I put in two. That's when I initially did all this. I looked at efficiency in replacement of the equipment. We may have one, but if something happens to that one, and we are able to, within budget, replace that one quickly without having to go through the 30-day process, then that gives us, the two gives us the ability to replace that one, and then the other goes out of service. If we only had one, if we had possession of one and was seeking one, and it's all just one, if that one gets damaged or can't be used anymore, then we have to go through the 30-day process.
Understood.
So
Thank you for that clarification.
yes.
All right, any other questions? All right, like to then open up for public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comment cards?
No comment cards or emails.
All right, we'll bring it back to discussion. Any discussion from anybody?
It's the same as last year, and we all agreed that it was worthwhile doing, so I say we do it again. I move to approve it.
A second.
So, any other discussion?
I just encourage everybody, if they have the opportunity next year, to participate in their training and qualifying at the range with all these, with every single one of these systems, thank you, that they have, because it really was interesting, and having them describe to all of us, like, exactly when they use it, what they use it for, where they would aim the non-lethal weapons, and why they aim it where they do, and every single thing was so interesting and very educational, and makes me feel very, like, safe and secure, knowing that they're so qualified, and watching everyone participate.
I was scheduled, but the windstorm blew us out
Next
of the
day.
water.
I'm sorry. Next year.
So the one comment I would make is it would be good to know not just deployment of the weapons, but when we use them in actually we're using rounds. That would just be helpful to know. I really appreciate it when we're using it in a, I guess in a human situation and not in a wildlife situation. But just to know that information, it would be a nice thing for next year. I have no reason to say against it, to vote against it this year, but it'd be nice to enhance it next year.
In addition to training or just rounds in the field?
Just how it's been used. I mean, I think it's helpful information. Like, we've got great statistics right now on bears, but to add to it on, well, okay, so we've got the statistics on bears and bear intrusions. We went through that earlier. We've got this report that's like, well, how many times do we use it on bears? What weapons are we using? Not what systems are we using on bears? I think that would be really helpful. It would just add to it. It's like, as I'm trying to think about this holistically, it'd be helpful for me to understand that bigger picture.
I think outside of the scope of the AB 481, from what I heard, we're keeping track of that data. And
Absolutely.
We have that. So I mean, I don't know that Fish and Wildlife is, because that could be data that is important to Fish and Wildlife. I agree with you. I think that might be something that we would want to report out. Is something working or is it not working? Right?
And I really like the way you're thinking about it, Councilmember Garcia. And maybe, in our monthly report that the chief is doing, if we could add that in. So, I mean, there's lots of great detail in it on all the incidents. But, if we've got something where we're using these non-lethal weapons, I think would be helpful to. Thank you. Systems. We'll get there. Non-lethal systems, I think it'd be good to know.
I agree, and one other thing to add to that, Councilmember Goss and I were discussing this also, is like what the fact that our PD has to be trained to interact with wildlife and be specialists in weapons on what you use on a bear and what you use is crazy, like, to me. Like, when they signed up, that's not in their job description normally, but it's something we need to start adding for their job descriptions, is you will be interacting with wildlife. That's rare, but to the adding to that is, with the new fear of what's happening with wildlife, it's important to have that data and to show not only the state, but even our citizens that they can be secure and safe too, and that we do have trained officers with systems that will help deter that. And worst case scenario, they're trained how to interact with bears so that they do call 911 when they need to and not resist.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that data would be great, especially to show to Fish and Wildlife too.
Got it. Yep. All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. Do we have any items for future agenda that people would like to add?
I do have one.
Yes, Councilmember Ross.
I'd like to have the planning commission go back and review the noise ordinance. In the process, hopefully they would consult with a consultant and set noise thresholds for the entire city. I think, and then obviously, I don't know if we'd ever have a role in that, but it starts with them.
City Manager, do you have enough to go on with that? Great. Is there anything else that we have for future agenda items? All right, I would like to call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned till Tuesday, July 9th at 5:30 p.m.
Great.
Well done.